What's up, horror fam? It's Ryan and JT with the Horror Call Podcast, and today we got something special for you.
Yeah, we got Nathan and Bill from the Phantom Galaxy podcast on the line.
And hope you guys enjoy it. We're doing a little crossover episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Phantom Galaxy, the crossroads where science fiction, fantasy, and horror meet. I'm your host, Nathan Bartlebaugh, and I'm joined by my always co-host, Bill Van Veghel. Bill, how are you tonight?
I am rocking and rolling. I can't wait. I was listening to some heavy metal. I'm feeling romantic. Let's get this show on the road.
Heavy metal and romance. It's perfect. It's perfect for tonight, too. I actually was listening to some heavy metal as well, which was coming through the Zencaster vibes here from our guest tonight, which I'm really excited about. We have with us tonight the hosts of the Horror Chronicles podcast. It's a YouTube channel, and I'm going to turn it over to those guys, let them introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the podcast. It's a really awesome show. If you're a fan of horror, you're going to love it. So without further ado,
What's up, everybody? I'm Orion,
And I'm JT.
and we are the Horror Chronicles Podcast, guys. Kind of like I said, we talk about horror, all that is horror, creepiness, paranormal stuff, anything that, goes bump in the night. We are metalheads.
Yeah,
so that's
definitely.
what he was referring to. We were blasting some Testament.
Yeah.
But more than that, though, we like to talk about horror. We have our own Facebook page, which we're pretty active on. It's growing more and more every day. You guys can find us over there. Join the community, have a conversation.
Yeah, check us out on YouTube. All you got to do is type in the Horror Chronicles, and we'll pop right up.
Yeah. Very easy to find. We're on everywhere you can find a podcast,
Yeah, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, CastBox. We're on all the major podcasts.
Yeah, and like we said, we talk about horror movies, do horror movie reviews. We talk about paranormal, cryptids, UFO, everything that's creepy,
And you guys had mentioned to me when I was on, you also do some book reviews?
We do.
Yes,
We
yep,
do.
horror novels, all that kind of stuff, yep.
Both of us learned how to read last week, so
it's no time like the present, right?
Well, that was because we had an author coming on, and we thought we better get at it.
I'll stick to two-syllable words.
Yeah. I asked him. I said, "Hey, you don't have big words in your. Are there pictures on your book?" And he said,
I can read
no.
pictures. I can read pictures.
This is a graphic novel, correct?
We'll try it.
But yeah,
We talk about all that stuff.
and we also, like we said, like to co-promote and like to go on other people's
for
shows,
sure.
have them on our shows, and just build this whole, horror
Horror
movie and, just, there's no reason why we all can't just get along and promote everybody.
Can't we all just get along?
It's all the love, yeah, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man. So, yeah, we're so happy to have you. And you mentioned the cryptids. So, hey, anytime you want to talk cryptids, I'm happy to come on. I love that stuff. In
Nathan,
fact,
we got to get you on the show, man.
my kids came to me. They listen. They don't. They see me podcasting. We've talked about podcasting stuff, and a book I loved as a kid was Daniel Cohen did this whole series of cryptid stuff in the '80s, and he did a book called The Encyclopedia of Monsters, and I found a copy online, and my
sweet.
kids are like, we have to do a kids podcast about like monsters, and my little daughter who's 6 is like, we need to go to the crypto zoo, like in some place.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was
that
like,
sounds
yeah,
awesome.
so yeah, we can talk to Phantom Kangaroo or something like
Yeah.
that. So.
As long as we cover the Ogopogo.
The Ogopo, yeah, we were just reading about him the other day.
Yeah.
One of our favorites is Chupacabra.
Chupacabra.
Yeah, yes, the goat sucker.
We just love saying that word.
Anytime I get a chance to say it.
Every couple of years, somewhere down south, there's some guy that has a picture of some large pig in his backyard that says it's the Chupacabra.
Yeah, my favorite was like 2 years ago. Somebody was like, "Here's the Chupacabra," and it was like the werewolf from Harry Potter just thrown into it. I love that it takes
Chupacabra.
more than a.
That's
yeah,
a hairless cat. Wait a minute.
That's exactly what it looked like. Yeah, it's like they would always represent it on the X-Files. They'd look at Bites and Scully would be like, "Is this that goat sucker thing again?" And he's like, "No, they have 4 fangs, not 2."
Awesome. No, man, we
but that-
really appreciate you letting us be on the show.
Yeah, and I was.
Oh, we're
saying
so
to Nathan-
glad you're here.
I was saying to Nathan before that we love your audience. You guys, when I came on and I promoted the show on your site, must have had 3 or 4 people who wouldn't know us from a hole in the wall share it. And I was absolutely floored by that and so appreciative. Your guys' audience is welcome here. You know, we're welcome there. It's all one big happy family. Let's all hold hands and sing Wars, Why Can't We Be Friends?
Yeah.
Or Richard Cheese's version, or whatever you can find. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But you know, though, and I think that's a point I was making recently, because all these people I know are dropping off of Facebook and like, I can't take it anymore, and they're like, Nathan, why are you still on Facebook? I was like, because I just stopped and went over, and I only talk to people about horror, and they're the nicest people in the world. And you know, when things get too stressed, I like to go talk to people about people getting mutilated with chainsaws. It de-stresses me. It makes me feel better.
That's exactly what we were talking about when Bill was on. I was like, it's funny how, you know, something that's supposed to be creepy or, you know, terrifying brings people together. Everybody wants to be scared.
Yeah.
You know,
and for a while I did like the professional critic thing, and every person I ever met that was involved, you know, the guys that directed horror films and stuff like that, always, like, without fail, the nicest people you could possibly meet.
Oh,
like,
man, I'll tell you.
So welcoming and sweet. And
we just did it. We know because we just did a 4-hour interview not too long ago with 2 directors and 2 actors from the UK of a horror movie that just came out this year, or last year, I should say. And it ended up, from being an hour, turned into a 4-hour interview.
Yeah. Can I ask who they were, or who the movie was?
So we were on the phone with the directors Richard Oakes and Adam Leader, and the 2 main stars of the film, which was Samantha Loxley and Neil Ward, and they were in this new movie called Hosts. There's a movie out there called Host, which is about hosting websites and stuff like that. That is not this movie. This movie was called Hosts, Hosts, and it was about...
Oh, yes, I'm familiar, but I haven't seen it yet.
It was about possessions, and basically...
Don't want to give it up if you're going to watch it.
Yeah, we don't want to give up the film, but it almost had a Invasion of the Body Snatchers feel to it.
Yeah. That's what the write-up I saw looked like. Yeah, very neat. That's awesome.
They are awesome people, man. They've actually told us they want to come on the show again. Yeah. You know, just on some random things.
I was so paranoid too, because I was like, that was the first interview we ever did, and their production company actually got a hold of us and set it up, and then all of a sudden Ryan over here, he's like, dude, I don't know if I can make it. I got to work late that night, and I'm like, oh God. He goes, man, you got this, you know. So I get on the phone with these guys, and I'm like, what am I going to talk to these guys about for an hour, you know? And I'm like, you know, and I'm all freaking out. And all of a sudden an hour goes by, and we've only went through like 10 minutes of the movie. And Ryan calls or sends a text, and he's like, hey, are you still on? And I'm like, yeah, get over here.
And Daddy came and saved the day.
For another 3 hours. It was crazy.
That's funny.
Crazy.
But no, yeah,
it ended up being a really cool episode, though.
They're awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah, years ago, I was interviewing the guy. Have you guys seen The Endless? And recently they did a movie called Synchronic. It's Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead.
Oh, I haven't heard. No, I haven't seen that.
Did a movie called Spring too. The Endless,
I have heard of
was
Spring.
last year.
Yes, I have heard of Spring.
Yeah, we'll probably bring that one up tonight, actually. But their first movie was Resolution, and we had them, and it was the actor, and he at that point he was in their movie, and he was also in Abraham Lincoln. Not Vampire Killer, but Abraham Lincoln versus Zombies. Bill Oberst Jr., who's a super sweet guy. And Bill's been in a ton of stuff. He's a great actor. And he was playing Lincoln, and the thing that I noted was that he was so much better as Lincoln than the guy in the Vampire Hunter movie, except that the Zombies movie was made for like $50. And they were so nice and welcoming. Again, you ended up talking to him for hours, and I was like, I don't know how to edit all this, but who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's the thing. When I was looking at sitting down to edit that video, and I'm looking at 4 hours worth of video, I'm like, oh my God, I'll be here forever. Luckily, I had a couple of weeks to get it done before we needed to release it, because we didn't want to release our episode before the movie came out.
Yeah, well, that's what gets tricky sometimes when you're doing it with the movies, and you're trying to make sure you give them enough time. And everything.
But it was super cool. I mean, they basically told us, because we were trying not to spoil the movie, and they're like, no, let's step all over it, because, you know, by this point, there's been so many people have seen this at, like, festivals and stuff. Let's just get it out there. I'm like, okay. You know, so we did it.
Yep.
We basically ruined the whole movie.
And we found out some things that a lot of people don't know that probably ain't going to know.
But we found out some stuff about the movie that Adam was like, okay, I'm going to tell you something, but can you edit it out? And I'm like, sure. So I almost left it in there because it was so good, but I ended up editing it out.
If you want them again as a guest, you cut that out.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, man, we 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
I'm definitely ready to
so here we are. We're
talk
talking
about some love in horror.
That's right. I guess we should announce the topic. We talked for 10 minutes and people are still like, what's this episode? But if you
hell
clicked
are
on it,
these
you
guys
already know
talking
because you
about?
read the title. Yeah. So, yeah, this is our Valentine's Day episode, as it turns out. And we're going to talk about date movies or romantic horror movies that are perfect for Valentine's Day. I realize that a perfect date movie may not also necessarily be a romantic horror movie, but I think we get our bases covered here. And I mean, with having the Horror Chronicle guys here, I know you're going to bring some great choices. And there was a lot of fun just to think about this and go back through some of these movies and try to see how far I could twist the concept of romantic horror movie.
Yeah,
it
was fun
depends
'cause
on who
does
you're dating.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's an excellent point.
Well, it depends, because Nathan and I were bouncing ideas back off this afternoon, and, does this count? Sure. Does this qualify? Sure. So you're kind of loose and goosey with the categories of this. So really, whatever floats your boat for Valentine's Day is basically going to be included in this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I kind of went in a weird direction with this, and
Go
as Ryan
figure.
can attest, I like to talk, so we're going to have a good time
You have a
tonight.
mute
So
button?
I was going to say, so your number one choice is Veronica, right?
Veronica. Bill, did you watch that?
I did. I
It
did
was
watch
funny.
Veronica.
Bill said, I'm going to watch Veronica. I was like, be careful.
Yeah, he told me that too, and I was like, I haven't seen this movie, Bill, and I know how divisive, not in a combative way, but how divisive people's views on horror movies are. But I have met no one who hasn't told me this is one of the worst things they've seen, like almost universally.
I've seen worse.
I've seen worse, but I mean, my guess is the four of us. I don't know how much that says because I don't know, we've seen a lot.
Well, it was funny. That movie, I had to watch that movie. As soon as I found out that, it was a Glenn Danzig movie, I was like, oh, dude, I got to watch this, even if it's a shit show. Oh, sorry.
I think he was counting on that. I think that's what's pulled him through.
Spider.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, this is the direction we're going with. Okay.
Yeah. But it was great when he finally got her shirt off.
You gotta love horror. You gotta love horror.
Man, I didn't even think we were going down this road tonight.
And it goes automatically.
We're already there, yeah.
We're already there.
That's how it happens on our show, guys, all the time.
Well, and JT starts by saying, I went down a weird road with this, so you just volunteered to go first.
Well, and it wasn't even Veronica. That's how weird it is.
Yeah, I know. Bill already took us down. They would just, don't mention
No,
Veronica.
it's-
Don't mention
it's
Veronica.
really
Hey,
not.
guys, have you seen Veronica?
It's really not that weird.
Yeah. Well,
No.
It is
It's really
odd.
not that good either, from what I understand.
If you have a fetish for bathing in blood, you'll love it.
Oh, Elizabeth Bathory.
yeah, if you Bathory comp.
That sounds like a Roger Ebert pull quote right there.
Well,
Or
okay,
buckets
so
of blood up. Yeah.
I'll bring it to
Buckets of Blood. That's a great movie.
it. Sounds like a band of a band.
Yeah, that is a good movie.
But I'll bring it a little bit back to maybe some PG-13 type stuff.
Oh, Ryan's
Okay.
going to do PG-13.
Hey, look,
Okay,
I have-
Ryan is the R-rated superstar over here, okay?
So,
Yeah.
but this is for all those guys that are 15 and 16 trying to woo their girl in high
yeah,
school.
I have to bring myself in on this because you guys all know, you've heard my podcast, you've heard, so I'm trying to keep myself under control. No, but I thought of a movie when you guys had this idea, for love or romance and horror. I was like, okay, I could do this, I bet, because you guys, we've all seen Warm Bodies.
No, we have not.
Have you not
God,
seen
I gotta
that?
scratch that off my list.
I've seen it, yep.
Okay, so Warm Bodies it's basically about a chick who falls in love with a zombie. Yeah, it is what it is. But I thought of another cool movie with the same concept. Came out way before that. Came out in 1993, and it's called My Boyfriend's Back.
Yes.
Have any of you guys seen that?
I may
Yeah,
have.
and that's a better movie. Didn't
Oh,
Bob
yeah,
that's a
Balaban
better
direct that
movie.
one?
100.
Sure.
Well, I mean, look at the freaking cast in that movie. I mean, here's a few people who are in that movie just off the top. Renee Zellweger, J.O. Sanders, Matthew McConaughey.
I love J.O. Sanders.
Yeah, exactly. Matthew
All
McConaughey.
right.
Edward Herman. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Andrew Lowry. I mean, and I could go on and on and on with the people in this movie. It's crazy.
I was going to say, I saw Tracy Lynn for a second. I thought, Tracy Lord? She's in this film?
Yeah.
But she did some good stuff too.
This would have been about the right era, though, right? 1993.
It would have been,
yes. Crybaby type era, I think.
Yeah, but Bob Balaban too is the director, and we've talked about Bob Balaban a few times, Bill, on the podcast.
Yes, we have.
He's also
And
an actor.
I see Cloris Leachman was in it.
Oh, man, I'm telling you.
Oh, rest in peace, Cloris.
Rest in
Rest in
peace,
peace.
yeah.
And Edward
that's-
Herman too, although it's been a few years since he
Yeah,
passed. But,
yeah.
And that's what I'm saying.
And Philip Seymour Hoffman too. Yeah,
Yeah, man. It's a
Damn,
great-
we're losing
he's
all
brought
the
us way
greats.
down.
Well, yeah, I
This
seen
is
this, and this is a great film. Go ahead, bud. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Well, I was gonna say this is a good film. It's a fun, it's a funny one. If you're looking to just, have a good time on, but you're a horror fanatic or whatever, and you want to watch a good horror movie with your significant other, and they're not too much into it, they can laugh at this one. It's got a lot of good qualities to it that are fun for a couple to watch, And I mean, the actors in it.
Yeah.
You get what you pay for. And they must have put some money on this one because
You get what you get.
It's got a ton of actors in it that are amazing.
Yes.
So you
Yeah, and
don't have
it's
to worry-
very quirky.
Yes, campy.
Much
we call it
quirkier-
campy.
Campy.
We call it
Campy.
campy.
Well,
Campy in the horror world. We call it campy.
Well, to me, a movie I'm going to talk about in a few minutes is not that this isn't campy, but there's a lot of intentional eccentricities, I think, that you find in this movie, particularly because you're right. The thing this has in common with Warm Bodies is the intelligent zombie routine.
Yeah,
Except
yeah.
in Warm Bodies, they kind of use it to make what I thought was kind of a toothless zombie movie. Suddenly you're like, okay, well, what are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
They had to make up a whole different threat in order for there to be any kind of menace in the movie. And here, he wants the girl. He's back from the dead, but he still has to deal with eating people.
Yeah.
And they handle that in a really funny way. And it is a PG-13, so it's not. IMDb has it listed as comedy, fantasy, horror. That's probably just about the right designation because it's not scary, but it's got so many of the zombie tropes and the horror tropes. And before zombies were completely done to death, you weren't getting a zombie movie in fact, 93 was probably the renaissance of the zombie movie if you're thinking about, 93 was about 92, 93 is when another movie I'm going to talk about comes out, and so you had several zombie movies the same year, but this was the one that was pitched right at the teen crowd a little bit.
yeah,
And I think it's
definitely.
really good.
Oh, I like it a lot. It's funny. One of my favorite parts in this movie is whenever he comes back to life, and he's going for this girl, and they're in the library, and she's looking at him, talking about it. She's like, well, what if things start, falling off?
Yes.
She looked down at his.
Yeah. Well,
I'm like,
we're not going
classic.
to use that tonight, honey.
Rigor mortis is not there.
Oh, God. I'm
No.
sorry, Nathan. We took a bad time.
No apologies, ma'am. There's nothing.
Oh, my
Apologize.
God.
I apologize.
Have you guys seen the budget on this movie?
No.
Holy crap. They spent $35 million making this movie.
What?
$35
In 1993?
Yeah, and look at look
Its
at the
opening weekend, it did $20.3 million in sales.
Wow, that's a bit better than I would have
look
expected,
at the
honestly.
cast though. I mean,
Well,
like
I'm
I said,
actually-
they paid the price for the actors in this.
I'm actually
All right,
looking
guys,
down,
I'm
though.
done.
If you
The rest of my movies suck compared.
Well, I'm actually looking down on this, and IMDb has it listed. Let me
But
make
no,
sure I
this
get the right
one's a
movie. My
fun one. It's a,
boyfriend.
good- it's a good one
Yeah.
to watch with somebody who's not really into the horror stuff, but they can laugh
we're
at
not
this
talking.
one.
I'm sorry, that was Warm Bodies I was looking at.
Yeah, this one's a 12.
Way to screw
Yeah,
things
yeah,
up.
$12 million.
Way to screw
Or
things
12.
up.
Well, we were talking about that.
Do you guys see what I have to deal with over here?
Come on.
And its gross was it was a budget of 12 million, and its gross
capabilities of
was
visual yet, so we just have to think of it in your.
You see what I'm saying?
Hey, but you can imagine it though.
Oh, I can.
right. This one was a little different. This had a budget of 12 million, and
I'm
its
now
gross
going
was
to have
close to 4
Gerald in my
million.
dreams tonight. How about
Oh
that?
man,
All right.
careful.
So to warm Boyfriend's Back actually was a budget of $12 million, and it gross was under $3 million or under $4 million.
Yeah.
That seems a little bit more right for 1993.
Yeah.
I mean, you're thinking this is Army of Darkness time frame and everything like that.
Oh,
Those,
yeah.
those movies all found their audiences on video. We know that.
Even $12 million in 1993 was a significant chunk.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge
But again, I think
amount.
this was a little bit more of a, like, that's to say, it wasn't quite a campy B movie. It was a movie made with actors that were pretty, decent at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just a... Bob Balaban, though, he made a lot of movies like this. He also did The Parents in the 80s. Do you remember that one?
Oh,
with,
yes. Yep.
Randy Quaid. Yeah, it's another really quirky, weird kind of comedy that's in the horror genre, but also kind of not, and it's just so strange. You go, what do I do with this movie? Mm-hmm. It kind of walks both worlds, in a sense. It's both alive and dead at the same time.
Alive and dead.
Yes, alive and dead. But I agree. That's a great choice. And it looks like you can rent it on Prime, for about $4. And it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, 100%.
I haven't seen that in forever, man.
I just watched it like a couple months ago, actually. It's
Wow.
fine.
I wanted to check it out again now because it's been years since I've seen it.
I wanna
And I
check it
forgot
out now
all the
and see all these
cast.
stars.
There's a ton of movies out there, though.
Oh, yeah.
People would think about it, love. I'm gonna stay on the whole love thing, but in horror, but it's a little slightly different. A lot of horror movies are have love in the, I don't know, what am I saying, the storyline, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of things that are horrifying are things that can happen to your loved ones.
Exactly.
Most times, like we'll say with kids, right?
Yeah.
So if you have children, I know Bill does. But if
I have two
yeah.
myself. Yeah.
So if you have children, the love you have for your kids, no one can describe.
I'm going to stop you right here. Is this going up to Antichrist?
Well, no. No. What I was gonna say was is that movies like Silent Hill,
Okay.
Yeah.
Silent Hill, Pet Cemetery.
That cemetery came to mind when you mentioned the kids.
yeah,
It's like how
The Mist.
heartbreaking that scene is.
Yes, or The Mist.
Oh my gosh.
Poltergeist, things like that. A Quiet Place. It's a little newer one that can, anything that has to do with children. It's a love thing, Most time, whenever you're with horror, someone's trying to defend someone they love, or somebody's trying to kill somebody they love because they're obsessed with them. Like that movie, come out 2016, Pet.
Oh my gosh. Pet.
Pets. Oh my gosh.
What a weird movie that is.
Dude, it had
That's got some
Dominic
twists and turns.
Monaghan. That's how you say his name. And,
Monahan?
Monahan, and then
Monahan,
Jeanette McCurdy. That movie.
Yep.
That's
What a weird movie. That's a
love
strange
story.
one. It is, because people express themselves in different ways when it comes to love. You kind of hope that both of those people were not necessarily dating material. I mean, I don't know if that's a spoiler, but
yeah. So there's a lot of it's funny, a lot of love based in horror. So
Yeah.
fairly easy to
absolutely.
come up with concepts
Absolutely.
on this one.
Nathan, I don't know how old you are, so I'm going to go down a road that Bill and I might enjoy here. So, one of the things that I was thinking about when we approached this topic was how romance is prevalent in a lot of horror films. Mm-hmm. A lot. All the greats.
Yeah, slasher movies
have elements of love or romance in some way or another. One of the roads I went down, and I just want to touch on it for a little bit here.
always does.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about love, I'm going to touch on it.
touch whatever you want.
Look at your Universal monsters.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that for a minute. You've got Dracula. Dracula was driven by his obsession for Nina Harker. The Wolfman. 1941. Larry Talbot was obsessed with Gwen Conliffe in that film. Creature from the Black Lagoon. Mm-hmm. Okay, came out in 1954. The Gill Man had this extreme attraction to Kay Lawrence. And then you get into stuff like Phantom of the Opera from 1943. That movie's all about love. Eric, the main character, the Phantom, his love for Christine You know, he takes this woman and holds her hostage underneath the opera house. You
Yep.
know, I mean, you can't get any more obsessive than that, you know. And then you've got, you know, the other ones like The Mummy from, you know, 1932. You know, the great Boris Karloff. He had he played Imhotep. Well, Imhotep was deeply in love with Oksana Moon, you know, so that whole movie was him trying to reprise that love that he had for her. You know, there's just so many, and the list goes on and on and on.
And of course, you know, the Bride of Frankenstein.
Bride
Really, you know,
of Frankenstein.
there's not as much romance in the
Absolutely.
first Frankenstein, but you bring it in Bride, which I think is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. And it's an interesting point because all of most of the Universal monsters are really lovesick dopes, right?
Yes,
and in a sense,
absolutely.
they're and the you know one of their close cousins there, King Kong, he falls in the same trap.
Oh,
and
that was a big one I was going to talk about was King Kong.
we can get there. There's plenty of King Kong to go around, I think. But that, you know, I think that's part of why those stories resonate and why they were such good monsters, because that's where their humanity comes in, right?
Absolutely.
We can all sort of deal with the fact that they care about something so deeply that they're willing to kill a lot of people along the way, but they ultimately end up sacrificing even who they are. You know, a lot of these creatures are in this place because of this, or they are driven by this one thing. Except for the Invisible Man, he's just a dick.
That's exactly right. The Invisible Man just went insane.
Right, which is great. That's what allows him to, and I think that's a fantastic movie. But yeah, The Mummy is almost truly like a romance story. You know, I think some of the other Dracula movies, like the Frank Langella version, that's a really that really brings the romance forefront, and Langella does such an excellent job. I love the the Francis Ford Coppola one, but that one almost gets a little too pervy to really be as romantic, you know.
Well,
Dracula does a lot of leering in that one.
And that's what's interesting about that Bram Stoker's Dracula, which that came out in, 92, I think?
Yeah, yep.
So they basically turned Dracula on his ear, and they essentially made a movie star out of Gary Oldman. I mean, they pushed him into, you know, movie star status with that movie, and they tried to make Dracula as sexy and adorable as they possibly could, but still
except for when he was the
keep him
grandmotherly
in that
looking thing with the
What
was that? Well, they have that line from one of the Hotel Transylvania movies where he's looking at someone dressed like him. He says, "What's on your head? My grandmother's boobies?"
Yeah. Absolutely. That was probably Transylvania 65000.
Oh, there's oh my gosh! Yeah, that one. As a youth, I'm in my early 40s, but in the 80s, Gina Davis haunted my
God.
dreams after that movie.
Wasn't
the costume in that one?
wasn't
her
Ed
vampire
Begley Jr.?
costume?
Was it Ed Begley Jr. in that?
Yes.
And Jeff Goldblum, yeah,
And
Jeff
Jeff
Goldblum.
Goldblum.
and who else was in it? Michael from Seinfeld, Michael Richards was
Michael
in it
Richards,
as well.
yeah, he played
Yeah.
like the butler or something like that. Or,
Yeah, it's sadly, I mean, I rewatching it, it's still kind of fun, but it's not nearly as good as it should be.
right, yeah, I tried to watch it
But
last
it's endearing.
summer, and I actually own it. Years ago, they put out this thing. I think it's called a 6-pack of horror or something like that. But it looks like a 6-pack of like beer. But it's got 6 movies in it, and Transylvania 5000's in there, and Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and Vamp, and some other ones, you know.
I like all those movies.
Yeah,
I was gonna say-
absolutely.
I can't help it.
Talk about romantic, Elvira.
Elvira, the most
Yeah.
beautiful woman in horror.
Cassandra Peterson.
is it-
yeah,
is
she
it-
still
isn't-
looks great.
Yeah,
Vamp, where they go to the dancing club where people look for romance.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, that's where people look for romance. Yeah, that's the Grace Jones movie. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
She looks pretty killer in that one too.
She did.
No
She did.
pun
She
intended.
was always a beautiful woman.
But I think one of the fun things about when we talk about the Universal horror movies and when they're released, I think the connection point is great because when you have these monsters who, again, they're the other, they're the outsider, and they're just looking for love and tenderness, which is usually exhibited a little bit by their object of affection, but then lots of times they take it too far. It's perfect for these teenage kids, who, a 15-year-old kid who's got a little bit of acne, he probably feels better, he's not stitched together out of dead body parts. It could always be worse. I mean, when he asked the girl out, did she turn around and say, we belong dead? Hopefully not, usually makes you feel a little better. Unless you're the kid who's watching the Phantom of the Opera movie, the Schumacher version with Gerard Butler, where when he takes his mask off, there's a little bit of a rash. Some kid with acne might be like, oh, he looks so much better than me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He only has to wear 1/4 of the mask. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
While we're talking about Gerard Butler and Dracula, Dracula 2000 is
It's a movie.
It is, and it's funny. A lot of people diss that movie. I really enjoy that movie. I think some of it had to do with one of my favorite bands, is Slayer, and they did some music for that movie.
Yes. It's not a terrible movie.
It is not a terrible movie. I mean, it's actually, the way they told the story was pretty cool. They have a kind of very ambitious twist that I wish the movie had been a little bit better, because the twist was so crazy, but I kind of liked it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and talking about Dracula, they really, in the later years, turned him in, like you said, into like a succubus almost, or incubus, I would say. He was
like
really
a beast.
seductive, really, and then that's what got into vampires, and that's the thing about vampire movies, that with the whole romance thing, if you want to get into that, like vampires, and a lot of movies and lore and stuff are really seductive, and that's the big part of it. That's how they lure you in, and that's that's something that I never. I mean, I'm digging too deep into it, but it's like, how are you gonna like something that's dead? It's cold. It probably stinks.
Yeah, but he's so suave and debonair.
But he knows how to talk. I guess nowadays, as long as you can speak, you'll be okay.
Well, it's that whole hypnotic thing, right?
Yeah,
You're sort of under their spell, I guess. And it's funny because you're right, most of the vampires are not portrayed as the living dead in that sense, right? Vampires get the kind of past that zombies and, or the werewolf doesn't get. Like, they get to be sexy all the time. They have to drink blood, but, they're not like they're not growing fur and, running around on the moors, or their body parts aren't falling off. So they got it relatively easy, but...
Yeah.
But that's a good point. Did you guys ever...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Did you guys ever see a movie from the mid-'90s with Aunt Perola was in it? It was called Innocent Blood. Did you ever see that? Anthony LaPaglia was in it as well, and it had like Don Rickles and Robert Loggia and a whole cast of characters
I know what
to
you're
it.
talking about, yeah.
And she's a vampire, but she kind of ends up going up against like the mob. And if at some point she bites Loggia, and then Loggia just goes on a killing spree. And if you know who Robert Loggia, he really hamming it up. And there's a point where he's just sitting on the kitchen floor drinking Don Rickles, pretty much. But it's a fun movie, and there's a love story kind of going through that one. But it's called Innocent Blood. I believe, if memory serves, I do think it's not one of his better movies, but it is directed by John Landis, who did American Werewolf in London.
Oh yeah.
And so it's not on the same level as that movie, but I really got a kick out of it. I remember enjoying it quite a bit. I probably haven't seen it in about 20 years, but Innocent Blood, it's a lot of fun.
Well, when you brought up Gerard Butler, I thought you were going to go down the route of the one I saw the other day, Greenland.
Oh, P.S.
Oh yeah,
I
I
love
watched
you.
that. I watched that one. Hey, excuse me, P.S. I Love You is a good chick flick.
It is. I agree. I can.
No, while you're talking about Landis, can we give some props, because we talk about it all the time? Can we give some props to makeup artist Rick Baker? Rick Baker did
absolutely.
the greatest werewolf transformation ever put on film. Period.
And American Werewolf in London is a love story too.
It is.
It'd make a great date night movie.
It would.
It's a lot of fun.
So it's funny, you talk about date night. The first movie my wife and I ever went to see was Hellboy. 2004.
Nice.
We were just going to be movie buddies, and we ended up getting married a year and a half
You know what
later.
happens when you watch horror movies with girls,
Yeah.
right? You know what
Our first was The Ring.
The Ring. Oh, my God.
The Ring. And I knew we weren't dating at that time, but we went to the movie together, and there were a couple other people with us, and I looked over, and she was the only one whose hand was on her her face was on her hands as opposed to over her eyes. And so I was like, yeah, okay, that's the one.
Yeah,
and then later we were walking through
oh my
Blockbuster and we both looked at Killer Clowns and said, we love that movie. So, you know,
that's
it was,
funny.
that was it.
Yeah,
Everything
it's
was
funny.
just a
My
matter
wife's
of.
not into horror at all, but I mean, she'll watch it with me, but she's, you know.
See, I got lucky. Me and my wife have been together for 20 years. Yes, I'm only 34 years old, and we've been together 20 years. But she loves horror.
Which is awesome. Congratulations,
Yeah,
man.
thank you.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
she loves horror movies just like I do. So it's awesome. And the first one that we ever watched together that I can remember was Darkness Falls.
You know, oh my gosh, that was when we actually were dating. We started dating at the beginning of 2003. That was the first movie we went to.
Yeah,
I love that movie.
that's a great movie.
Love it.
But I want to get back. Go ahead. I was gonna say. I want to get back.
I was just saying, I remember being in the theater at Darkness Falls, and there was a couple of people on our right, and it was very distracting because every time this thing attacked, they would just start screaming, "Eat 'em, Blair Witch! Eat 'em!"
Yeah. Oh man.
But anyway, go on.
Well, Bill had mentioned Greenland. What'd you think about that, Bill?
You know what? I was expecting more.
Me
I
too.
thought the first half was way too dramatic. Like every possible thing that could go wrong did.
Yep.
I thought it picked up in the second half when it just became their struggle to get to Greenland.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of it. But I mean, you know, the kid has insulin and he forgets the insulin, and then they don't get on the plane, and then he gets on the truck and he gets attacked in the truck, and the wife's kid, the kid gets kidnapped, and they gotta get the
Oh,
kid.
dude, it gets crazy.
They go to see Scott Glenn, and he's the cool grandpa, and he just gives up his life because he knows he wants to be there with his wife was there. Like, holy cow!
Yeah, man.
Bill just told you the entire movie. Anyone?
Hey, that's what we do all the time.
Well,
Yeah.
but it's like we talked about. There's so much. It's funny, but there's love, and basically all horror is based off some kind of love story, so to speak.
Thanks, Bill. I don't need to watch that now.
Yeah. Well, you know,
But I was going to say, ultimately, Greenland is a love story because it's Butler trying to get back together with the wife, and you find out that he had fooled around on her, and it's his love for the family. And so, I mean, you can see the romance in that film.
yeah, and the thing I gotta go back to, with the kids, anything if something happened with a kid, that's the ultimate love, and that's what you're gonna do the most for. You will literally jump in front of a bullet or a train to save your child.
Absolutely.
But the thing, well, that's because no one loves you, JT. But
Oh, damn, I just snorted. Sorry.
I love apocalyptic movies.
We're
too.
leaving it in. Don't
All
worry.
right, cool.
Well, we almost we're still debating on whether or not to get fart mics. So might happen on our show down the road. Who knows?
Please make it happen. That needs to be a thing. Somebody has to do it. Might as well be you.
Button.
Yes.
I need a button.
No, I'm talking about a
yes.
real fart mic
Oh.
hooked to our seats, and
breezies.
that's what. Yeah. And so like
They might not sound as impressive as the fake ones. That always happens.
trust
Yeah.
me, son. I eat a lot of chili.
I don't know. He's
It's just a question
impressed
if
me
the
a
mic
couple
can
times.
pick it up. You don't
He's
bust it
impressed
out
me
or
a couple
something.
times. Damn, dude, did you just crap your pants?
No, but I tried.
The love movie contingent's gonna love this episode. We don't even romance these guys talking about their farts. 3 minutes in.
Hey, a fart can be romantic.
Hey, this will be one of your
It
best
can, yeah.
episodes. Trust me. No, but with the
Smell that.
I love apocalyptic movies too. And that's just for my own. I don't know. I'm weird like that. But there's a lot
Max.
of Mad Max. Things like that. But something I want to talk about that I didn't know if you guys had thought about
Let
this.
these guys talk.
We can.
No, go
We
ahead.
can.
Go-
We talk all the time. People hear us all the time. You keep going.
I saved my voice. I'm a teacher. I use it all the bloody time.
Nice.
Go ahead and talk all you want.
Well, I was going to say something I didn't know if you guys thought about, but where there's a lot of romance in this.
The Friday the 13th remake.
That's 100%. There's a whole 10-minute long scene. I watched it. I tried. I'm gonna tell you the
Watched that
story.
again just before he came over here.
It's on.
I can tell you where the love wasn't. It wasn't in whoever made that movie.
Well, I can tell you what they did stick with the great *80s
TNA.
TNA. They stuck with
Yeah,
that.
they did.
But what's funny about that is that
Perfect nipple placement.
you got perfect nipple placement. But anyways, I was watching that in theater, of course.
He's
Because
gonna delete this this episode.
We lost it, guys. Sorry.
Somehow we
Well, sorry,
lost
guys,
that.
we can't hear you. Is anybody there?
It wouldn't upload. It wouldn't upload.
Bill's like revenge.
Revenge. No,
They're going to pull a Bill Van Veghel on us.
but something.
That is a thing, pulling a Van Veghel.
I am
It's
now.
illegal in Canada, from what I understand.
I am now a verb.
You are, sir. You are.
You just Vegeled it.
Munson. He's
get the Veghel out of here.
You just vagaled your pants.
Ryan's on the verge of saying something profound, and we keep messing it up. So before he goes back to farts,
That's
let's
what
let
we
him
do.
finish.
Do I need to go today? Or do I need to start talking about farts again to calm you guys down?
Yes.
No, but something I grew up on, and probably you too. Tales from the Crypt.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's I mean, almost all of the first 2 seasons, a lot of it was all based off of romance and love stories. Of course, they were twisted into some horror, but you know, they're all, you know, like Dead Right was a name of an episode with Demi Moore, and she, you know, goes to fall. She wants this rich man to fall in love with her so she can, you know, get his money after he dies and all those other things like that. Till Death, Three's a Crowd, The Sacrifice. There's so many. I mean, tons of episodes out of that were all based off of a romance, so to speak. But how romance can turn bad.
Yeah. Well, and I think the reason
that's a
why
great
they
point.
do that is because love is so sacred, and it's when you're most vulnerable. You know, that they can really twist a love story and make it a horror story.
Well, because of
really
things
easy.
that you will do for it.
Yeah.
What you'll go through for it. You know. But Tales from the Crypt is a great one because I was pretty young. Probably shouldn't have been watching it, but I snuck up at night and turned the TV on super low and would watch Tales from the Crypt when I wasn't supposed to. A lot of stuff in there I probably shouldn't have seen.
Yeah.
Which explains why I am the way I am today. But
Yeah, I remember going with a friend, and we got dropped off to see Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Not the final chapter. Hold on, no, Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Hell. That's the one.
That
not
one's
the final.
so
The final
good.
chapter is good. The Jason Goes to Hell. No, but it had a lot of TNA
Yes.
in it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's what sold those movies back in the 80s, you know? That's what
Yeah.
made, that's what put butts in the seats, you know?
Butts on the
Boobs and
screen.
blood. Boobs and blood.
Boobs and blood.
Butts on the
we
screen.
actually got invited to do a show with a magazine called Boobs and Blood.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, 100% we did.
That's funny. You would know that.
Like, I am not denying that at
That's
all.
only because I'm a monthly subscriber.
They sent me that email, and I was like, oh, hell yeah.
Which of those two do you want us to focus on?
Yeah. Butts on the screen.
And it wasn't
but
even
butts in
on
the seats.
Pornhub or anything, you know?
So, you can find horror chronicles everywhere, including.
Hey, I wonder what would happen if we typed that in.
Yeah,
Oh, never mind.
It is what it is.
You and your search history have to deal with that. I
Yeah.
can't solve that riddle for you.
That's why you use that incognito page.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, love and horror.
Anyway.
Well, and I think, those will always be entwined with horror because of the fact that horror, when it's really working, when it really gets to you, it's those things that you're truly afraid of. And I think ultimately, some of our greatest fears are being alone or dying alone or having the things that we do care about taken from us, like at some point you fear for your own death. But again, you've pointed out, like if you've got significant others in your life, you've got people that you really care for, to me, the fear of having something happen to them is greater than the fear of what's going to happen to me, per se. And so, you see that played out so often in movies. I think it's interesting when you get to the romantic aspect of horror movies is when they do go for the universal aspect, which is that you make the villain either sympathetic or alluring,
Oh, yeah.
Those two things. They don't necessarily have to be both, but that's interesting. And the horror slasher, which is a ton of fun, they kind of never got to have that, because no one's going to sort of like be this allure. There was a certain allure to Jason and Freddy as kind of like icons, but not in the films. So what I thought was interesting is when you get to the 90s, and of course you see that start to happen with Clive Barker, who's all kinds of twisted. I mean, he's also a super nice guy, but man, the stuff going on in Clive Barker's head is wild and out there. And Clive Barker comes to this point where he's intermingling the love and the eroticism and everything else. He's intermingling in the horror in such a way that you can't see up from down anymore. And not that Pinhead is necessarily a romantic horror figure, but when you get to Candyman in '92, and granted, Bernard Rose, who directed that movie, probably has as much to do with that iteration as Barker did, who wrote the short story. When you get to Candyman, you have a character that is very much like the Universal horror figures again.
Yes.
He's alluring, he's scary, he's got a tragic backstory. He played by Tony Todd, he's both menacing and he's kind of seductive. And man, I just think that is a killer horror movie right there.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
I love.
See, but
Go ahead.
I was going to say that ticks off all the boxes because you got some slasher element, you got some supernatural element, you got some romance element, you got some adventure element. Like that's almost a horror movie for all people.
Oh, 100%.
And he was that first of those slasher kind of characters that brought it full circle back. All those people that are complaining, why can't we go back to the Universal monsters? To me, he's the one that marries those two things back together again.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. I know you want to say something.
What I was going to say is he was talking about there not being any love in slasher movies. I'm going to tell you what, I've been in love with Jamie Lee Curtis since 1978.
And what I meant was love, like not love, but the slasher themselves being the like figure of romance.
You were in lust, not love.
I was.
Yeah.
But hey, you just brought it up, and it's one of the movies that I put on my list because I didn't know if a lot of people would really look at this movie and think about the love aspect behind it.
Probably not, but go ahead.
But Hellraiser from 1987.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that movie is all about love. That movie. A woman, discovers the. It's funny when you think about the plot.
It's a comedy, really.
When you think about the plot behind that movie. So basically, I'm going to read through the little short synopsis of it. A woman discovers the newly resurrected. Partially formed body of her brother-in-law. She starts killing for him to revitalize his body so that he can escape the demons that are pursuing him. You can't get any more love than that, to where you're willing to kill somebody to help a loved one.
Yeah.
Somebody you're in love with. I mean, and that goes back to Clive Barker. Clive Barker's mind was just way out there, and it was funny as I was writing this, Clive Barker did some great stuff. He did Nightbreed, and then I also wrote down on here Candyman from '92, and we just talked about that. Another great love story, The Midnight Meat Train.
Oh yeah,
from '08. Great story, not a love story, but great movie. Hellraiser is just one of those movies that it really is all about love. And this woman trying to save the man that she loves. Oh. Even though she's cheating with him, cheating on her husband with him, but, it's...
And they're the villains, and that goes back to the thing, Imhotep is killing everybody in his path, but gee shucks, he does love the girl.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he's going for.
Absolutely.
He's doing everything for her.
So if he loves the girl, is he really a villain?
Well...
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
still, but the fact is, we care about his goals, and we care about the things that he cares about, and that's why those movies, I think, are so. They work so well. They're multifaceted. Not a single one, even the Invisible Man, who doesn't really care about anything except being crazy. What he cares about is the pursuit of knowledge, right? The pursuit of science.
Right.
But all of those characters, they still have real human wants and desires, and they all have a tragic story because it didn't have to be this way per
Absolutely.
se.
Like
they didn't set out.
You sympathize with them.
Yeah, they didn't set out to end in ruin. It just came up as it went along. Well, I want to go back and talk about a couple. We started with the zombies with my boyfriend's back, and I wanted to talk about. Maybe a romance movie or some movies that have the romance theme that aren't necessarily the twisted romance, but, how about movies that attempt to take your typical romantic storyline and then kind of smush the horror movie into it. And I think one of my favorites, and this is where you have to gauge for the date night movie, you really have to gauge your date and how much they enjoy gore. But I say 1992 Peter Jackson's Dead Alive is a very romantic horror movie. Because you've got a perfectly wonderful boy meets girl cute meet, and then then pus, vomit, and guts and lawnmowers and rat monkeys and
I was going to say
babies.
Fun trips to the zoo.
Oh my gosh! And when he's got that little baby and he's banging it against the swing set, and the women are looking, but the love story at the center of that movie is still, it has a cute. You like these characters, you like their chemistry together. You hope they make it through this onslaught of this madness that's happening. It's very slight, I give you that, but it's enough to keep the movie running until you get to the next big gore scenes, and you want to see these people get through it. You want to see Lionel, throw off the shackles of his mother and, get with the girl, and, you want to, he's there, he's so helpful when she says, "Your mother ate my dog," and he says, "Well, not all of it," and he pulls the tail out, But what do you guys say? I mean, to me, the romance does kind of shine through the movie. Helps keep the movie fun and keeps it going.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes to what we've been talking about. That a lot of horror is based off of a love story some way. And then it just gets twisted, which is I don't know, kind of sound bad, but that's what I like about it. It twists them.
Well, I think it gets twisted in just the perfect way.
Exactly.
But this has got everything you want. You got the meet cute. You've got the resistance of the parents. You've got the false dawn. You've got the moment where they get back together. It's basically, it could be Pretty Woman, except it's got
it's something
Notting Hill, and it's just got guts everywhere.
1,000 gallons of fake blood.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I tell my wife, I'm like, look, it's a love story, babe.
Yeah. For sure.
You just gotta find it.
But I would have watched those two lead characters in a regular romance, no problem. But I'm glad it wasn't.
Go ahead.
While you're on the whole zombie theme, did you guys catch a movie came out in 2014 called Life After Beth?
Yes, with Aubrey Plaza.
Yes. Very cool movie, but did not do very well in the theater. But the cast in this movie alone, dude, is insane. Do you remember that movie?
Yes, 100%.
I mean, it's crazy. Let me just run down this list. I mean, you got Aubrey Plaza, who plays Beth. She's been in a lot of stuff. And then the main character, Zach, was Dane Dahan. But then you've got John C. Reilly, Molly Shannon, Cheryl Hines, Paul Reiser, Anna Kendrick. I mean, it's just crazy. They spent a ton of money on this movie, and actually, they really didn't spend that much on this movie. The budget was $2.4 million.
I think this was one of those indie movies with it was a labor of love, and they were able to get people who were like,
I hope
we believe in this movie.
Because the opening weekend, they only made $15,000.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a case. My understanding with that particularly that movie, Life After Beth, I'm pretty certain it was actually more like a VOD release.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
and some of those movies, they will release them in only a handful of theaters, just so on the off chance that it does get picked up for awards. Because we'd see that a lot, like in the critic thing, you see a movie and it's like, it's not really playing anywhere. And that's because they'd make sure it got in just enough theaters to qualify as having a theatrical release.
Right.
But then really, Life After Beth, it ran at a lot of film festivals, and that's where I saw it originally. And then it got picked up on the VOD circuit, and it played, then you see it on streaming like Netflix. But that's a fun movie.
Yeah,
and
it really
Aubrey
is.
Plaza's really good in it.
It
I was
really
going to
is.
say, if you're talking about zombies, one that normally doesn't come to mind that I don't know if you guys have seen, and it's the French movie Mutants.
Yeah. Why do I feel like I just recently watched that movie?
And Mutants is about a woman who kind of the world is blown up around. There's zombies everywhere, and the husband, I can't remember, husband or boyfriend is in the process of changing.
Okay, yeah.
And it's her struggle through the film of do you give him up? Do you find something for him? And you get him shelter, and you kind of watch him transform as the movie's going. And I'm sure it's way underseen, but it's a heck of a film.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have heard of that, but I don't think I've ever
That is a
watched
good
it.
one, yeah.
28 weeks later was considered a love story. When the husband has to leave the family to, try and escape and all this stuff.
You mean the husband left his wife on purpose because he's scared he can't?
Right, I don't know if he had to, but he did.
Bye! No.
Well, even if you think, when we talk about that concept of love extending beyond just, we are talking about romance, but if you're looking at a story that deals with love and the zombies, I'll mention it very quickly. You do have Maggie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and
that
Abigail
was a cool
Breslin,
movie.
which, I thought that worked so well, and that was one of Schwarzenegger's best recent movies because it gave him a little bit of pathos, and it gave him an opportunity to do something a little different. I thought he sold it just fine. I thought Breslin was great. I thought it brought up a lot of interesting things in the zombie genre that you don't see.
Yeah, and I guess this one's not really a zombie, so to speak, more of a demon, but Jennifer's Body.
Jennifer's Body, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
I mean, she's not, I guess, technically not a zombie. She's a demon,
No,
really,
she's
huh?
a demon.
Yeah, so, but, that's all based...
There's a lot of stuff going on with her.
Yeah. Well, it's all based off being seductive and just...
She was very seductive.
It's things like that. It's people find it weird, but then again, people love it. It kind of blows my mind to a point to when I see, some of the things that people were like, oh, well, that's not a love story. I'm like, have you looked at this? This is a love story. You just got to open your eyes up. It may not be in your form of a love story, but it isn't mine.
I have two other zombie movies that fit that I had on my scratched out list. One of them was the recent film Yummy.
Yes, I watched that.
Dude, that was very cool.
Very cool. And I mean,
where the guy gets frozen.
There's a certain scene involving fire.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, it's the love of a husband who's willing to take his wife to go get her breast reduced. When he's telling her they look fine, they're lovely.
Bill, that's the main theme of the entire film.
But that shows love and dedication. He has to go take her through hell just to get her tits smaller,
Wow.
Like, honey, I don't mind paying to make them bigger, but,
And the other one I had on my list was Dead Snow 2.
Dead Snow too, yeah.
Because I love like there's it works on different levels. Because if you're just looking for a good date night movie, killing zombies in the snow is always fun. Like it's a fun movie, right? And at the end, there's some crazy zombie sex, so you get the romance angle of it.
Yeah, isn't it like set to like Total Eclipse of the Heart?
That's right. Yeah, Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Yeah, man, that's an amazing scene.
well, God, Bill, if you're going down that route, then Teeth would be a love movie.
Oh God.
Oh no, I wouldn't go that far.
We're going to shut that one down right now.
On the brakes.
But how about Return of the Living Dead 3?
Yes. Yes.
Now that is a total. That's what I was saying.
total
93. We
love
talk about My Boyfriend's Back, Dead Alive, and Return of the Living Dead 3. Totally. There's your movie night right there for Valentine's Day.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, and that's in all great movies. But that one we didn't talk about that. We mentioned that one in our episode. The other ones we really didn't talk about at all. But that's a complete love story.
Yeah.
I mean,
and there's campy. Now that's not quirky. That's straight campy.
yeah, that's campy. Yeah.
But if you're going down that road, do you go down to Bride of Chucky?
Yes.
Sure,
absolutely.
why not?
I mean,
Absolutely.
That's the thing with
That is
horror.
one of the greatest love stories ever. It's right up there with Cinderella.
Cinderella, right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, Cinderella doll sitting right next to the bride.
Hey, I got an Annabelle.
That's a
doll
fun
sitting
movie,
over
though.
here.
Yeah,
It is fun.
Bride of Chucky's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, guys, I mean, really, horror, a majority of it is all based of some form of romance or love.
Yeah.
All of it. I mean, because like we talked about, what's more terrifying than something happening to someone or something that you love? And that's what basically a lot of horror is based off of. So, this is a good way for you to talk to your significant other if she's not into it. Or he. I know there's some guys out there who aren't into it.
Hey, honey, we're going to watch a chick flick.
We're going to watch chick flick,
Let's
guys.
watch Return of the Living Dead 3.
Really?
She looks pretty amazing by near the close of that movie.
Oh, dude, it's freaking great.
It's a little alternative, but hey.
Hey, that's how you preach it. That's how you work your way in. Hey, honey, this is a love story. You just got to see it my way. I promise.
That's why one of the movies, and I know Bill and I were talking about earlier, and I'm not gonna steal Bill from introducing what the movie is, but I will say I saw this movie at a screening, a film festival. I thought I was going in for a different movie, and that other movie either had got delayed or they'd canceled or something. And it was where they just kept running movies in this one room. It wasn't like you need a specific ticket. So I go back in to see this movie. I sit down and I'm like, it is all Asian cinema, by the way, that they're playing. And I sit down and I start watching this movie, and I'm thinking, I guess they reprogrammed it with something else, because it wasn't just horror films playing here. And I'm watching this very sweet Japanese film about a widower who's encouraged to go back into the dating field, and he's got his friend. He's very shy, so his friend, who's a movie director, is like, "Oh, I got a great idea. Well, I'm auditioning these girls. They're going to come in and they're going to try out for this part, and you can sit here and watch and see if you like the qualities. We'll make the part tailored to what you're looking for in a woman." And it's really sweet, and I'm like, this movie is so sweet, and then things start to happen.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, we'll just say the film is Audition.
Okay, so that popped up on my list. I have.
Have you guys not seen this movie?
I have not.
Have not seen it yet.
Oh boy!
Let's just stop
I
talking.
do know about it though. I have seen like
all I'm going to say is dog food. Dog food.
Nice.
That's not even the dog food. I wasn't even thinking dog food. The movie get towards the end of the film. That's the one case where ever I walked out.
Oh,
and I walked out, but I walked out in for one thing. It was this film. It was not well ventilated at this particular screening, and they'd already smelled like a wall of farts. So I was sort of like, okay. And then this was happening, and I'm out. And I walked out. I got as far as past the door, and I thought, I can't do this. And I thought, I need to know. And I turned around and walked back in. And then after it ended, I said, nope, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I remember there was a scene with some needles.
Yeah, that's when I bolted, but I came back and it was just in time for the cheese wire.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good movie. It's a good horror movie. It is romantic, but it plays, I would say for the first 30 minutes, it plays like a straight romantic, cute Japanese comedy. And then you see a bag rolling around on the floor, and it's sort of like tilting itself, and the girl sitting next to the phone staring at it, and you're like, what is happening? And from there, it goes down a road of hell I've rarely seen in movies.
Yeah, you go from Chuck Woolery to Chucky. Literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But this, honestly, it is a great movie. You have to have a strong a person who's really strong into horror, though, for this to be a date night movie. And if they watch it and they're smiling like serenely through the whole thing, you need to make sure you don't end up in the sack. That's all I'm saying. Not that. No. Two kinds of sack. The sack that ends up with you're rolling around next to the phone.
So what you're saying is you take somebody to see Audition. It's truly an audition to see if they'll stay with you.
Yes,
that's it.
Like
Yeah.
Roger Ebert would say about some movies: if your friends like this movie, don't make them your friends anymore.
Nice.
Not this particular movie, but he would say that from time to time when he's feeling particularly salty. It's Takeshi Miike. He's done a lot of really strong movies. This is probably one of his strongest, not necessarily because this content is worse than some of his other movies, but the performance of this actress and all the performances of this movie are really strong, and it's delivered in. Miike was at a point where he was making he was super prolific at this point. In some of his movies, he was just churning out, and they were fine, but some of them lacked this really strong artistic bent. This one does not. This one is horrifying, but it's been fine tuned to be horrifying,
Nice.
and it's horrifying because of that dichotomy of the love and the warm feelings you're having, and you want to see this guy and you want to see this girl work out, and then you realize that it's going a whole different place.
See,
Whole different direction.
I'm gonna have to check that out tonight. I can handle anything except for when stuff happens to children. That's about it.
No, and it's not that this content in this is strong, but it's strong in the tightening of the screws sort of way. It's not like this is going to be the most grotesque thing you've ever seen. It's just that it builds the drama and it builds the tension and it goes to such dark places. It's the whole package of it's artfully done, and that's why it's so intense. It's not just let me see the grossest thing I can throw at you. It's not that. It's just that you're like, holy hell, how did we get here?
Get to this point, yeah.
The actress is Ihai Sheena, and she does a great job. And she's excellent. She's like award worthy. She's also in Tokyo Gore Police. If you've seen Tokyo Gore Police,
now that's more of the other thing I mentioned. How much slop can we throw? It's fun in a different way. It's fun in the what can we do next?
Yeah, and she's in like Meatball Machine. Like she's in all these, but she's also in some other splatter films, the Asian splatter films. But she's a good actress. Like she's not just a TNA actress there for eye candy. She can act.
So inexplicably, Audition might be the least gory thing.
Nice.
Yeah, that's funny.
But it's a different kind of gore between those others.
It's funny too because like just talking about this, I was watching Terrifier, and we're at the scene where he's cutting that chick in half.
Saws the chick in half.
Saws her in half, right? And I'm sitting there watching this with my old lady.
I freaking love that movie.
With my old lady. And yes, everyone, where I'm from, old lady is a term of endearment. If someone calls them their old lady, that means you would take a bullet for them. So don't get mad.
Hey, which is another love story.
But we were watching that, and my wife's like,
another love story.
My wife's like, you can watch this, but you can't watch. Like, I turn my head like on Pet Sematary when gauges run out. I always turn my head. I don't watch anything. Yeah. But she's like, you can watch this, but you can't watch that. I'm like, hey, look.
I can watch them saw a chick in half, but don't kill the dog.
It's the tone, though, and that's what we're talking about with Audition. And Audition switches tones on you, but Terrifier's tone is more of the, like, there's a remove there, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a fish in a barrel movie, and I'm not, and I almost don't like those movies as much because I'm not like they kind of. I know it sounds terrible. Yeah, I almost get bored, and they're like, "Why is this gore film boring you?" And it's like, I'm not with the characters. Right. They're getting cut up, but I'm not with them.
Technically, he's in love with murdering people.
So I guess technically anything's a love story.
I was going to say that's a stretch if I've ever heard one before.
Yeah. Well, but not a love story. But even that there's any real, it's a setup for the gore pieces, which is totally fine. But I think that's why I prefer the Auditions and the Candyman and things like that, because there's that thing of like, they bother me more. And what you point out, the Pet Sematary scene, like you're not even really seeing things except you're seeing a shoe and you're seeing his face, and that's enough because it's got you. I was almost hyperventilating in that movie, The Babadook, because my son was about the same age as that little boy. And there's a story with love and horror intermingled. And towards the end, like when he's getting like his hands come up and touch her face, I was almost done. I was like, this can't end like this.
Well, and kind of what it boils down to really with horror movies or scary movies, there's a bunch of different types of horror. But like I said, whenever I told you, so one of the first movies me and my wife went and seen was Darkness Falls. When you are young, you're dating, what are you going to do? You're going to take your girlfriend, whatever, boyfriend, to go see a horror movie. You're going to see a scary movie because it makes you get closer to each other. And it's funny, we kind of talked about this earlier, is that scary stuff or stuff that's supposed to be, macabre or whatever, brings people together. And when you want to take a girl out, you go take her to see a scary movie, you guys get in close together, and that's, helps with the mood setting. Weird, but that's how it works. And to me, that just goes to show you that horror isn't really that strange of a thing when it comes to the whole romance thing. It's kind of actually what starts a lot. It's what starts a lot of romance.
And I mean, there's a reason why they're big at the drive-in.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's why you take your girlfriend to haunted houses and stuff like that. It makes them cling on to you.
That's true, and an interesting point there. And it's funny because when I was talking to my wife, I was like, "Can you recommend a good?" Because we've been to tons of horror movies together. I would say, "Recommend a good date night horror movie." And she looked at me and said, "Well, what about Freaky?" And I was thinking, well, I wasn't thinking of Freaky because I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's just
I have not seen it yet, but I know what you're talking about.
And right, with Vince Vaughn, it's basically Bill and I talked about how really it's like Freaky Friday the 13th. Like that's kind of what you get the slasher movie, and the slasher and the young girl switch bodies, and that's the gist. But her point was it's a totally there is romance in it to some extent, but that's not the gist of the film. Yeah. But it's there's a point where some of these movies, The Darkness Falls, and are very different than The Audition. And we've talked about a lot of movies where love is at the heart of these movies, but some of these movies would make great fun date night movies, and some of them are just too heavy in a sense to be a good maybe date night film. You don't want to walk out feeling bad.
Yeah.
And I think, so her suggestion of Freaky was perfect because Freaky's a really fun and funny, but it doesn't hold back on the gore, and it's got the kind of plot that the girl who wants to, or guy who wants to see the date night kind of movie with the fun group of friends and the girl who's got these different issues she needs to overcome. Like, all of those elements are in this movie, and, is there a point when it's Vince Vaughn who's got to have the awkward talk with the boy that she likes? Yes, it is. But in between, you've got a fun horror movie, and I think it's a really great suggestion. So there's a lot of date night movies that I think the lighter ones are going to be for the purpose of maybe a fun, Valentine's Day kind of movie, or if you're dating and you're kind of feeling out how much do you like horror movies. Something like Freaky's excellent. It's R-rated, but it's not mean-spirited, It has the gore that someone who likes slashers will enjoy, but it's got the fun story about the girl kind of coming of age and hanging out with her friends in high school that anyone's going to love. And so I think that, this year, that's probably a great suggestion. It's worth whatever the rental price is now to rent it on VOD. It's a lot of fun.
And, like we talked about, and what we're getting at, is that it doesn't have to necessarily be based in romance or love, but it causes that in real life. Like we talked about, going to a haunted house or something, and it makes your, significant other cling on to you. That's like a lot of movies that came out like in the early or the late 90s, early 2000s, kind of like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, kind of movies like that.
Scream could be considered a love.
Scream is a great movie because everyone can watch it and get something out of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, but these
the Swiss Army knife of slasher films.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as far as it goes with the romance and date night movies, I should know this because I've watched 20 years of being in a relationship. Me and my wife love horror.
He's been on 3 dates.
Yeah.
That's why they're so memorable.
That's right. That's why I tell her it's not quantity, it's quality, okay?
Yeah, there you go.
You can't remember the last one, then it's hard to compare.
I'm not even going to go where I was going to go. I'm keeping myself.
Sorry.
But, no, but.
That's like when you told Samantha Loxley, you know what that looked like coming out of your mouth?
If you watch Host. Horrible. Sorry, I was talking.
Yeah, it was bad.
Told you about that interview we did with the people from.
You guys went deep, I see.
No, it wasn't you guys. It was Ryan. And I'm sitting over here like, oh, my God. They're going to hang up on us.
I've been working on my filter, and I've done very good tonight. Thank you very much. Very good.
You've been the model of restraint, Ryan.
See, thank you. But, no, what I'm getting at is that really scary movies, not necessarily horror, gory movies, but scary movies, like Freaky and things like that, are great date night movies. Something that's going to make your significant other kind of come in close to you. Any kind of like, Annabelle Creation, any Conjuring, any of the movies.
The Conjuring movies are an awesome example because they have a lot of scares in them, and yet Conjuring 1 and 2, honestly speaking, regardless of what you think about the Warrens in real life, the Warrens as presented in the movies, that's a great example of a couple, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
like, we got each other's back through
Absolutely.
everything. Like, their love seems sincere, the acting and the chemistry those two have, and it trickles down through to Annabelle Comes Home, the most recent one. But all those movies, they have that great love story that's kind of sitting amidst 2 hours of jump scares.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about the Warrens is if you really get into their real life story, that's how they were. I mean, they loved each other unconditionally. I mean, they were.
I mean, the best scene in Conjuring 2 is he's sitting there playing the
Guitar.
the song to her there. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's like I'm saying. I couldn't even guess the amount of people who have used scary movies to, make a move on a girl. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. It's every time you go, you see a.
I haven't done that with my wife. She's not interested.
Yeah, there's no moves to be made.
That is itself a horror film. Well, in fact, that's a perfect segue into the Cat People from 1942. Have you guys
I
seen
was
this
hoping
movie?
somebody would bring that up.
The Cat People, where she, have you seen this movie?
I have. It was a long time ago, though.
Yeah, it's well. There's two. There's the Cat People from the '80s, which is twisted and a love story in a very different, weird
but
way.
The original
but
was
the 40,
so much better.
Yeah, the original has twofold horror. There's a horror of this woman who's afraid of consummating her marriage because something horrible is going to happen. She's going to turn into a panther and murder this guy. And the guy's horror is the fact that, guess what? She's not going to consummate the marriage.
And when did that movie come out?
42, I believe. And it's a fantastic film. It's one of my all-time favorite horror films. It's as good in my mind as The Wolfman is, although there are no special effects. Val Lewton, who's a producer, he works with these movies in such a way where it's all done in the style and editing, and you have these really tense chase scenes, and it's all about suggestion. And it's not long. It's not much over an hour, but it's a fantastic film, and love plays a huge role in that movie.
Yeah, just like in Sleepwalkers.
Sleepwalkers is a romance movie in its own way. Yeah. It's not a conventional one.
Yeah, but that's a romance movie between a mom and her son.
Well, but it's interesting because we mentioned the Cat People 82. That's the movie that has these transforming cat people that must have inspired Sleepwalkers, because in that one it's a brother and a sister.
Yeah.
Angle of so a lot of what ends up in Sleepwalkers is pulled right from Cat People, the Schrader version, which is an out there movie. I mean, that movie, that thing is Looney Tunes. It starts in a weird, like, sub-primal world where people and panthers decide to make some sort of weird carnal pact, and you end up with these shape-shifting. Wow.
Yeah.
But I like Sleepwalkers, and I like both versions of the.
Well,
Cat
that's
People.
kind of like you talked a little bit earlier about cryptids and things that you're into that. Have you seen?
Not that into it.
He's not that into it.
Sure.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
He said that too quickly.
Like I had it prepped. Either that or I expected you to ask it.
No. Have you seen any of these Bigfoot love novels?
Oh my God.
So yes, and you guys have seen the movie Willow Creek?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was one of the first places this movie premiered was I'm here in Baltimore. It was a Maryland Film Festival, and actually we were at the screening for it, and Bobcat Goldthwait was there, and John Waters introduced the movie. It was awesome. But Bobcat was saying how people were saying, wow, you really show we expect you to skewer the Bigfoot people a lot more than you did. And he's like, a lot of these are great people. He goes, but I did have to, some of it was so off the wall that I felt like he said one guy who was a guide and wanted to be in the film, he was an author of young adult Bigfoot romance novels, and one of them was called Yeti or Not.
Yes.
So, he said no one would have believed it, so I left it out.
Oh my God.
Well, I had my buddy send me a picture just the other day, and he goes, "Oh, you're gonna want to read this book." And it's called Nights with Sasquatch.
Oh, Lord.
I'm like, why the hell do I want to read Nights with Sasquatch?
Putting the sass in Sasquatch. We're the ass in Sasquatch.
Yeah, Willow Creek was a great one. Bobcat, actually, I listened to an interview with him on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about how he went to a lot of these places and talked to a lot of people who had experiences, and they're really down there. A lot of them are really down there people. A few of them are crazy, but most part, people believe they saw what they saw,
Yeah, most people aren't making it up. They're just not seeing what's really there,
Right.
Bobcat had some, he had a couple statements there, and another guy, super nice.
Oh, yeah.
Super
Awesome
sweet guy. Will sit and just have a conversation with you right there in the lobby of the theater and everything. He was super affable and very, and it's funny because as a kid I'm thinking of like his spastic, his shtick in the Police Academy movies and in Scrooged, and he's so laid back. So
I was going to say the one film that I thought of right away that fits this perfectly. It's one of my favorites, and it's The Abominable Dr. Phibes.
Yes.
And The Abominable Dr. Phibes is essentially Vincent Price getting back at the doctors who he thought were responsible for the death of his wife. And there's that creepy scene at the end where he goes under the stage and he falls asleep with the wife. Oh, sorry, is that a spoiler? Yeah, I guess it is. But
now you're going to issue spoilers.
But
Now we've ruined everything. Thanks, Bill.
Well, there you go. Now, well, I mean, it's only 45 friggin' years old, right?
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
haven't seen it by now.
If you haven't seen this movie, you're living under a rock.
Yeah, 50. No, it's actually 50 years because it's 71. But Dr. Phibes is a fun film. There's some fun kills because IMDb announces it as comedy, then horror. So it has the comedic element just in the manner in which these people die. And yet it is a love story because he's driven by the love of his wife and what he feels was the unjust treatment of his wife to commit these crimes. And Joseph Cotton, as an older actor, and that was brilliant in this film. I really liked this film.
Have you guys heard of the movie?
And this is one good for the whole family.
Yeah.
Just about. Pretty close.
So I'm going to bring one up that's kind of obscure. I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but it was from 2013. It was a movie called Only Lovers Left Alive.
Fantastic film.
Vampire film? It was a vampire.
Cool. I was afraid that I was the only one that had seen this. And according to their budget...
Now, this is Jarmusch, right? Jim Jarmusch?
Yeah, yes. And, and it's funny, you talk about him, that guy's done some really cool stuff. He did that The Dead Don't Die, which is not a great movie, but it's still
It was fun.
You got
it's a fun,
fun with it.
Bill Murray,
and
son.
Adam
Anything
Driver,
Bill Murray.
Adam Driver.
And Adam Driver, yeah. He also did Coffee and Cigarettes, which is,
and Dead Man
is like
from
an
the 90s,
anthology
which is...
kind of film, which it was really weird. All of the segments have something to do with coffee and cigarettes. Hence the name.
Who'd
of
have
the movie.
guessed it?
He also
There's
did...
no false
and
advertising.
This really surprised me when I saw this. He also did the movie Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai with Forrest Whitaker.
That's a very underrated film.
Yes, very
I think.
underrated. Very underrated. But very cool flick. I mean, I actually watched this just last week. Was sitting around and trying to think of love stories and stuff, and this popped into my radar, and I thought, I'm going to check it out. And I was surprised at how good it was. I mean, this
is one of Tilda Swinton, and she has great roles to her name, but this is one of my favorites of hers.
Yeah. It was a slow burn film, but man, it was good. It wasn't.
It burns though. It does burn.
Burns. Yeah, I mean the whole dude. When she walks in the room and was like, "You drank Ian," or when he walks in the room and he's like, "You drank Ian,"
The interaction between her and Hiddleston is great, but the entire cast, sadly, two of them are gone. Anton Yelchin, who's great in there, and also John Hurt. John Hurt is like poignant in this movie, so good, and is one of his last roles.
Dude, if you haven't seen this movie, you need to check it out.
I got it written down.
Oh, do you really?
Yep.
Did you watch it?
No.
Oh, right on.
No,
yeah,
I'm gonna
it was
Friday night.
It was really good.
I need something to watch when I get home. So
it was really good.
You got Audition. You got Only Lovers Left Alive. You've got plenty to choose from.
We've got, Ryan and I are really big into music and stuff, and we listen to all kinds of music, and there is a lot of music in this film.
Yeah, I was about to say the soundtrack. I think of the vinyl for this is.
We're getting ready to do an episode on our podcast of horror movie soundtracks. It's hard to do though because horror movies and music is just
I
hand
guarantee
in hand.
you Maximum Overdrive is going to come up at some point.
1,000%.
But it's crazy. The budget on this movie was $7 million. $7 million. Opening weekend, they made $87,000. Ouch!
Oh.
That's another one but that's another one where it's opening weekend, probably released in New York.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You're probably right.
Well,
but
I was gonna say another one I was thinking of. Now that we talked about it, that would be a fun movie for people to watch on a date night. Is Zombieland, the first one?
Yeah.
Because there's the two of them are kind of romantically, basically. At each other all movie flirting.
Well, that's
not
his,
actually getting anywhere, right?
Yeah, that's his thing. He's really someone's in fear or someone's in trouble having their hair pushed behind their ear, or something like that. The whole time he's trying his hardest. That movie is so good and so funny. People love it. Like whenever he squirts that fucking clone on. Oh my bad, I said it. Damn.
Cardio.
You're fine. Don't worry about it.
When he forced that clone on.
We're gonna replace it with a fart. or maybe smooching noise.
Yeah.
Or something. Love episode.
Ryan and I are not doing the smooching.
No.
But
I'll find that elsewhere.
when he sprays that clone on Woody Harrelson, and he just looks at him, and he's like, I'm gonna give you 40%. And he's fucking down. I love that movie. The first one was so iconic. I love that movie, and I think it's a perfect date night. That's a perfect date night.
Okay,
movie.
I can't get this out of my head. A fart could kind of be a smooching noise.
Yeah, if you
Man, I don't even want to get into how the debate. Part of me wants to argue about why you're absolutely right, but there's nothing good comes
There's
from
no
that.
good answer for
well,
that.
I was gonna say if you use Manscaped.
If we get too scientific, we're out.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, well, you mentioned Zombieland, which I think is a great call. I wasn't a huge fan of the sequel, but there's a movie that came out this year. Bill and I would probably agree that it's not quite a horror film, but it'd be a perfect thing also for younger audiences who want that kind of tone of Zombieland. You could really watch with a family, but love is in the title. It's called Love and Monsters.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought this was a great movie, and it has the young teen trying to get to the girl. It has great creatures. It's got great. I mean, to me, I actually kind of thought it was a better movie than Zombieland, but it's a fantastic.
And the love is the motivating factor for the action.
Yep, that's a really good movie. Me and my wife watched that movie together, and we were both like, "Hey, I had two boys." She's like, "The boys would love that movie." I'm like, "Yeah, it's a pretty good," because my boys are obsessed with horror movies. I don't let them watch any slashers, nothing like that, but they watch scary movies.
Yeah.
And stuff.
How old are your boys?
I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. And
okay, so I have a 6-year-old daughter and an 8 about to be 9-year-old son and 6 about to be 7-year-old daughter. But they too love horror movies. We don't show them very many, and this was perfect. They really got into this one.
That was a really good movie. Have you seen that one?
I have not.
It's a fun little movie.
Monsters.
It's a fun movie. I was impressed when I watched it.
One of the best surprises of this year because it came out of nowhere.
I would say it's more an adventure movie than a horror movie.
But it's got a right tinge of like creatures. A horror fan's going to want to see it. A monster fan's going to want to see it.
That's why I watched it.
But you're right, Bill. I agree. Yeah.
That's why I watched it. I'm a huge horror fan.
It's like some Pride and Prejudice and zombies.
I got that written down on here too.
Oh, nice.
That one could have been a little bit better for me, but I mean, I did.
Well, and it's funny because my wife is a huge Jane Austen fan, so she really loved the Pride and Prejudice series, and all that. So she couldn't wait to see that. She read the book, and we've watched it a couple times.
It's fine. It's a fine movie. It's nothing. It's not. It's no warm bodies, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm not big into those period piece kind of movies, but
But no, that's a good call on that Love and Monsters. That's a good movie.
The other one I was thinking of was it's a bit of a stretch, but Beetlejuice.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Because the couple, once they die, they're going to live on forever together and haunt together, and it's not exactly romantic, but it's a good couples comedy horror.
Get romantic with Gina Davis.
You talk about the romance and the ghosts. Have you guys seen an old movie? It's a Ray Milland movie from 1944 called The Uninvited.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that film. Love that film.
And isn't it so good? And it's perfect. And again, an all audiences kind of movie. It's got a mystery. It's got a great love story.
Yes.
And there's this guy's trying to help this girl deal with these things. The love starts to blossom, but it's possible that that this ghost that may or may not be her mother is haunting the house, and what a great last line that movie has too.
Yeah.
I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but it's got one of the great last lines, a real kind of zinger there. But it is a great movie. Again, I'd say it's almost an all audiences kind of movie where you could watch this with your kids the same way you could watch a Universal horror movie. It's fantastic. Criterion Collection has a great version of it out there. It's called The Uninvited, and I really can't. Every horror fan, I think, should see it. It's definitely more in the ghost vein or mystery. It has some Hitchcockian vibes to it, but it's a good movie.
Yeah. Again, I just want to reiterate the fact that for listeners and stuff, a lot of these movies you can find great scary movies, not necessarily horrific, gory movies, but you can find a lot of great scary movies that are good to watch on a first date.
Yeah.
Or on second, third, whatever. If you're just trying to have a good Valentine's Day night and you guys like being scared, because everyone loves to be scared. There's a lot of great choices out there, and I think people don't give them a chance because they think, "Oh, it's a scary movie. What's this going to be?" But it'll bring the atmosphere into it, and a lot of these that we've been suggesting are just great, fun movies you guys can watch and have a good time together with.
Well, the other one that I thought of that nobody's brought up is 1983's The Hunger.
Yes, David Bowie.
David Bowie, and it's all about a love.
Catherine Deneuve.
It's all about a love triangle and using each
Susan
other.
Sarandon.
Susan Sarandon, and I mean, it's heavy and it's a different. It's nowhere near anything like Freaky or anything like that. But
Yeah.
you know, but I mean, it works on many levels. It's got the vampire element to it. It's got the seductive sex element to it. It's got the creepiness to it. Like there is love embedded in
If your
that story.
date's got a kind of like 80s Eurotrash vibe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's why we love horror, especially 80s
Yeah,
horror.
man.
You know?
And if you're in that vein, if you're going to go this is where if you've sussed out that the date's okay with stuff that's a little alternative, you can do this, or you can do a back to back with this and Life Force. Matilda May.
As long as nudity doesn't bother her.
Yeah, well,
You know, it's funny you were talking
figure it out
about
real quick.
The Uninvited, a movie that my wife turned me on to, which I would have never thought about watching this movie, which I don't understand why because of the title, was The Ghost and Mrs. Muir. That is
it's such a good movie. That's a
Total love
perfect.
story.
It's not horror, but man, so good.
total love story. You know, I mean, and the reason why my wife got me into it is my wife absolutely loves classic films, and Jean Tierney is one of her favorite actresses, and you know,
She's so good
I
in that
mean,
movie.
This movie it's a fantastic film. It really is. You know, if you're into classic movies, I mean, it is really good, really good.
Rip your heart out.
Well, it's a little bit. I mean, it's a romance, but it's got some lightness to it and things like that. There's another one from around this time frame called "I Married a Witch," which is fun in that same kind of way.
Yep.
Almost a proto Bewitched kind of thing.
Oh, what's that movie?
And
Once Bitten with
Once Bitten is it Lauren Hamilton and Jim Carrey? Lauren Hutton.
Oh
I mean,
shit!
Lauren
If you're
Hutton
going
and
down
Jim
that
Carrey,
road,
yeah.
Love at First Bite with George.
Love at
Harrison.
First Bite with George. Yeah,
George Hamilton.
Or George
Yeah.
Hamilton, yeah, I'm sorry. George Hamilton. So,
Or what was the other one? Blood-sucking freaks, or excuse me, but your teeth are in my neck.
excuse me, but your teeth.
dude, that's
That's the title of the film.
funny. Blood-sucking freaks. You guys know who Chris Jericho is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blood-sucking freaks is his favorite movie. He was actually on an episode of Joe Bob's Last Drive-In, and he was talking about that film. Absolutely loves it.
Well, if you're talking about classic films, one that came into my head that is a non-traditional horror film is Les Yeux Sans Visage, Eyes Without a Face.
Oh,
Because it's a
Great Billy Idol
father's.
song.
No, but it inspired it, and it's about a father whose daughter, her face got burned in a car accident, and he's taking bodies and killing women to use the face to get the daughter back to where she should be back and beautiful again. And it is an absolutely fantastic film.
No,
What
it
is
is.
that, a
It's a
French
great
film?
French film. It's it's very surreal. It's a must-see, I think.
Come on, Bill, spell that for me.
So Les Yeux, no, it's Eyes Without a Face is the English title.
Yeah.
No, but Les Yeux would LESYEUXSANS Visage VISAGE. Les Yeux Sans Visage.
hey,
Jesus Christ,
don't you?
Now I'm singing "Eyes Without a Face" in my head, but that's different. Is that Billy Idol? Maybe?
Yeah, but Billy
Yeah,
Idol.
that is Billy Idol.
But Billy Idol actually references it because he was a fan of the film.
I'm gonna
That's
have
very
to check
cool.
that
That's
out.
cool. That's like how Black Sabbath had the Bava film in mind
Yeah.
when they.
But
Oh,
yeah,
Baba
it's
did some really
So
cool
let me.
shit.
it's non-traditional in the terms of romance, but the love is there. There's no doubt about it.
It's a and it's got some pretty gnarly face removal scenes for a movie that's like a French film from the 60s.
I think
black
it's
and white.
1960 or 61.
Yeah. So let me back up a minute because I did mess up a little bit there. Blood-sucking freaks was the fearless vampire killers, or pardon me, but your teeth are in my neck.
Ah, I gotcha.
Is the title of that film. Blood-sucking freaks is obviously a different movie.
Yeah.
This actually was an early Polanski movie, The
gotcha.
Fearless Vampire
I gotcha.
Killers.
So I'm going to bring one
I mostly
up.
just wanted to say the title.
I'm going to bring one up that hopefully everybody has seen. Perfect date night movie, and that is The Loved Ones from 2009.
The Loved Ones. I love that film.
That movie.
I said this to Bill. I was like, "Oh my gosh, remember the loved ones."
That movie is all about love.
And you better think twice when you turn a girl down at the prom.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
This is another one where we could put that kind of warning on it of you're going to get into this movie, you're going to care about these people,
Yes.
and then you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But it does have a heavy comedy component as well, so it's not all blood and guts.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not quite as dark as Audition, but it's what happens in it. Some of it is, but the tone's almost more like a People Under the Stairs or something like that.
There's a scene involving a drill.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about the director for a second. So the director is Sean Byrne, I think.
He's an Aussie, isn't he?
Yeah, it's an Australian film. Yeah. Well, he did another film that I absolutely fell in love with.
Me too.
And it
Great
was a movie
film.
called
The Devil's Candy.
Yes.
Devil's Candy.
That
movie is a metalhead's dream.
Yeah.
That is such a good
It
movie.
is.
And, you know,
it is. Absolutely.
one of the things that's awesome about it is the way it portrays the metalhead at the center of the story. Like, he's a down-to-earth, loving dude. Again, this is a guy who loves his family, wants to do whatever he can to protect him. He's like the protagonist in a Stephen King movie. And, oh, my gosh, I watched the first 30 minutes of that film without realizing that was Ethan Embry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then when I found out, I was like, that's amazing. I mean, but such a good...
And I'm glad you brought that up because I plan on pairing that with our guest for our musical episode.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
We
I
want to
won't
get
say too much
involved
more about
with
that.
the
But
musical episode.
Well,
sometime.
what we need to
Absolutely.
do is get Bill on our show and talk about music.
We did that the last time.
Oh
We
yeah,
can.
that's right.
I can talk about whatever and bring Nathan on and
I say
absolutely.
or Nathan too if he wants to come on. But we're definitely going to be getting him on about some cryptid stuff for sure because that's going to be.
oh, yeah, it'll be fun. Whenever you guys want. This, by the way, this is such a fun... We're having such a good time
Good,
here.
good.
This is
Trust me,
absolutely
guys,
This
we're
is
having
a
a blast.
lot of fun.
And
How about The Fly, guys?
The
Can we talk The Fly?
Oh,
Well,
The
can
Fly.
I talk about the loved ones just for a little bit? Because I also
Oh, yeah,
wanna
I'm sorry.
talk
Go
about
for it, man.
No, you can't.
The main actress of that film was Robin McLevy.
Yes.
She played the girl named Princess. Well, the one thing that I thought was really interesting about her that I didn't catch from watching the two different movies, and we mentioned this earlier, kind of, she was also in 2012's Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Was she?
Yes, she was. She played Nancy.
And see-
Nancy Lincoln.
She wasn't. She
You
wasn't
know-
zombie number 12.
Yeah, probably.
I think you've just underscored a great point though about movies, and maybe people love the Vampire Hunter, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Killer, but it underscores the difference between the loved ones and Vampire Killer. Because I don't remember almost anything about that movie except there was a point where a vampire was throwing CGI cows at Lincoln, and but I loved the loved ones, and I don't think it's a movie anyone's going to forget once they see it.
So here's a cool little tidbit of information about the loved ones. The loved ones was actually involved in a true crime event, and we talk about like I said, we talk about all kinds of stuff on our show. So
in the context of the film, like
context of the film,
around the production,
the context of the film. If you guys haven't heard this, you're getting ready to. So, in March of 2013, a guy named Gary George was sentenced to life in prison for reenacting a scene from the film.
oh man,
Gary George murdered his best friend, Andrew Knoll. He was brutally beaten, sustained 49 stab wounds, and had cleaning fluid found in his eyes. And that is a straight out of a scene from that film. And the judge that tried that case actually quoted the film before they sentenced this guy.
Way to bring the freaking
Okay.
mood down. We
So-
appreciate you.
man. So this, like we said, perfect date night film.
Date night film.
Hopefully your significant other won't do this to
And that's
you
it. I'm
once
done.
they see the movie.
Thank you. Good night.
Mic drop
I'm gonna mute his
or drill drop.
I'm gonna mute his mic from now on.
That
Guys,
is-
just so
that
you
is
know, that's
fascinating,
how I-
creepy. I got I got a little bit of shivers hearing you talk about that.
Well, and it's funny, guys, just so you know, that's kind of how we run our show. I will find some of the most obscure shit about something. We did an episode about the Cecil Hotel, which is one of the most haunted places in Los Angeles.
That is so awesome, by the way.
It
Yes.
segued into like a 20-minute segment of me talking about Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker.
Yeah,
Well, you saw where Netflix is doing the miniseries on it.
Yes,
Yes,
I
I've
cannot
already
wait to
watched
watch
that.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Is it out yet?
It was
Is
very good. Oh, no. You're talking about the Cecil. Yeah,
Yes.
that is
Yeah,
not
they got
out
both
yet.
of them. See,
that comes
you
out
need to
in
get this
February.
episode and start putting it back on Facebook because you got the Night Stalker and the Cecil Hotel coming
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
So
you know,
that
actually-
episode should be getting a lot of hits.
Guys, I think that started tonight. I think February 6th
Did it?
was the
Oh,
date
man.
on that.
All right, well, this is the end of the episode. Good night, everyone. Take care. I'm going to go do something else.
Time to go. Yeah, I'm thinking about starting a little piece on our podcast called "Pointless Thoughts with JT," because
But nothing's
Well,
pointless.
they're
I mean,
not pointless. They're just...
that wasn't pointless. That was pretty toothy. That thing he just shared
yeah.
about the guy killing his friend after the loved ones.
Yeah,
Oh man, what do you think when you're the person who makes the film, and then it's like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what?
yeah,
well,
Not always is what do they say? Imitation is not always a sincere form of flattery.
So, they talk a lot about, there's so many movies out there that were inspired by true events. I mean, you've got one of our favorites, The Exorcist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's several movies that were inspired by true events, but hardly ever.
and
do
right
you
on
see
the
life
cusp
imitate
of
art.
yeah, and on the cusp of horror, maybe not quite, but Badlands, the Terrence the Terrence Malick movie with Sissy Spacek and Martin Sheen, as the two killers, and that's a fantastic. That's one of my favorite movies, and that has inspirations in real life, and it's such a good movie. And I've seen people categorize it as a horror film. Do I think it's a horror film? Not exactly, but it does delve into darkness a bit.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So what you were talking about The Fly, weren't you?
yes,
The Fly.
The Fly.
Fantastic film.
Specifically the Goldblum version. I love the old versions. I don't know if the old versions really would qualify as love story, but the 86 Cronenberg Goldblum movie, I mean, it's heartbreaking. That's one I don't know if I even say is a date film because, man, it is a downer.
Yeah, it's heavy.
What happens to him is intense,
Yes.
but you care about him. You care about her. I mean,
Well, you care about both of them as a couple. I mean, they're just starting out on this fantastic relationship, and I mean, it's a tragic story.
the whole scene.
And if you, I was going to say, if you've got a thing for vomit, it's got one of the best vomit scenes.
you've got a thing for vomit. And so does Audition.
Doesn't he try and give her lunch? It's like, oh, here's my lunch.
oh, dude.
This is how Brundlefly eats.
That's it. And he's all looking at it from a scientific point of view, and it's really
Yeah,
cool
he's getting into it, and he's Goldbluming it to the extreme. And again, that point in the 80s after Transylvania 65000, they were both in together.
Right.
The Gina Davis thing going on, and then of course Earth Girls are easy after that. With both of them again. Yeah. Not a horror film, maybe not a date film either.
Or maybe,
More maybe,
like we said, it all
Give
depends
it a
on who you're
whirl.
dating.
Different
I was going to
strokes
say,
for different
when I was
folks.
12, that was a must-see. I didn't care what the movie was about. I was watching that one.
He just heard Earth, Girls, and Easy, and he was like, I'm in.
I'm in.
Oh my gosh. But yeah,
But I was thinking, Nathan, I don't know if you guys have seen the one that I saw the other day, a 2020 film called Spontaneous.
I have
Yeah,
not seen
and
that.
Very good movie.
No, and Spontaneous is more on the sci-fi side. It's got some gore to it, but it's about this town where people are spontaneously combusting.
Not people.
Or teenagers, teenagers at a high school.
Only
I had that same problem.
No, your explosions were
We're
caused
not
by
talking
other
metaphorical.
things.
We're talking your desk and your book bag soaked in the gore of the kid in front of you.
No. Ryan's was exploding for other reasons.
Yeah.
You talk about sci-fi.
This was
Plan 9 from outer space.
this was spontaneous combustion, not combustion.
Oh, I thought you said combusting.
It's all in the spelling. It's all in the spelling.
Sorry.
And he's trying to watch himself, and I'm the one that's going off the rails.
We're 2 hours in on this. I've been doing real good. I have to.
Yeah, I goaded you. I'm sorry.
But
you talk about sci-fi. Look at Plan 9 from Outer Space. I mean, they were in love with making a shitty movie.
Ed Wood did love movies. He didn't love quality, but he loved movies.
But the main thrust of spontaneous... I was going to say, the spontaneous main thrust was a girl's and a guy's relationship and romance. And eventually you find...
Bill just wanted to say main thrust.
I want to see who busted first.
Yeah.
It would probably
But, it is a really good movie. It's got to feel almost like the movie Heathers, which I guess is kind of a love story,
That's
too.
a good movie,
from the
man.
80s. And it's in that... Yeah, it's in that dark comedy vein, spontaneous. It's a lot of fun.
I'm going to check that one out. I'm going to write that one down. I'm going to check that.
Yeah, it's not even... It's a stretch to call it horror, but it does have some fantasy and... I wouldn't say gore, but special effects moments.
Yeah. See, and that's you're going to be talking about freaking special effects and practical effects. I love practical effects. We talk about that all the time in movies, over
Absolutely.
CGI and things like that. But I'm going to check that one out because I got that one right now too.
Yeah, From Beyond's a love story, right?
The other one I wrote down that made me laugh and tongue in cheek is, have you seen the movie Microwave Massacre?
You talked about
long
that.
time ago. Yeah.
Okay, Bill, let's hear your pitch on
Where
this.
Jackie Vernon can't stand his wife and cuts her up and puts her in the closet. Well, it's a romantic in terms of if your marriage has gone to shit, this is going to make you laugh.
Sometimes love does stuff to you.
It's a romance in the term that if your
thought about
heart is
putting my
shriveled
wife
and dead.
So after you butcher your wife, you can sit down and watch this movie and have a good laugh.
But I mean, honestly, it's a pure comedy. Like it's so funny.
As you would expect anything called Microwave Massacre.
Like
to
there's
be.
no massacre. I mean, he kills a couple hookers, but big deal. You know?
It's more like microwave crime of passion.
I guarantee that it's like, okay, so
But that didn't sound as
Oh,
good.
speaking of hookers, Frankenhooker would be a romantic movie.
Yeah, that's yeah.
I guarantee that.
I think the
guarantee
Basket
Nathan's
Case
like,
movies
this is
eventually
only gonna be
became-
a 30-minute episode.
Yeah.
Hey, honey,
I've still got
Yeah, we know better than that.
This is going.
The Basket Case movies eventually become romantic comedy.
I was going to say, if you want to take this another route, I wrote down. Have you guys seen the movie Necromantique?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No, not going that route.
It's got romantic in the title.
Nathan just cut us all off.
I told you this is going to be like
It's okay to love the dead. It's not okay to love the dead.
this is going to be a 34-minute episode.
Right, when I cut it down, I'm like, wow, 15 minutes. But I promise you'll be the
hear,
best
hey,
15 minutes
JT
we
and
have.
Ryan from Horror Chronicles. Thank you. Good night.
It'll be like that time that Eli Roth made the PG cut of Cabin Fever, and it was just them on the drive in the beginning with happy music, and it ends a minute in. It's a minute long.
I love that movie too, by the way.
I remember seeing that. Yeah, that's a fun
funny
movie.
movie. I love that one.
A movie I wanted to mention that I think is a legitimate romantic date movie, and yet also happens to be kind of a horror movie, maybe a little more sci-fi, but it's a nice genre mashup. Is we were talking a little bit before the show started. Justin Benson, Aaron Moorhead, their movie Spring.
Oh yeah,
from I want to say 2015.
I have not watched
I think
that, so let's talk about it.
So this is a really good movie. I like it a lot. It's romantic. It's almost. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. I'd say, have you guys ever seen the Richard Linklater movie Before Sunrise with Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy?
Yep.
So imagine that, except that one of the people in this relationship is potentially a shape-shifting monster.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yet you have Before Sunrise, because this, it's so good, and it's a very interesting movie in the sense that if you've seen any of their movies, they've done, most recently they did Synchronic, which is an excellent science fiction movie. They did The Endless a year or so ago. That's a great, and these guys really understand how to build characters and how to tell a good story, and they also make characters that you like and are striving to do good.
And there's a good trippiness to their films.
Yes, and in this movie, so Lou Taylor Pucci, who basically played a human pincushion in the Evil Dead remake, I don't know if you remember him. He was the guy that they just kept sticking things in again and again and again. He's the star of this movie, and it was 2014, by the way. I said 2015, it was 2014, but he's the star of the film. He's really good in it. Nadia Hiker is is the love interest that he meets up with, and so he's having a lot of things going on in his life. He leaves the U.S. and he goes to Italy, and when he's in Italy, he meets this girl, and there's a lot of strange things going on with her, and there's all these moments in the film, and I think you guys really enjoy. You talked about like enjoying cryptids and things like that. There's a moment where you're trying to figure out what kind of movie this is, because there's hints that maybe there's a creature from the ocean, maybe there's a werewolf involved, and as the story starts to unfold, there's an interesting mythology that's being spun here that has almost a Clive Barker-esque feel to it. And yet what stays front and center is this burgeoning relationship between these two people. You want to see them, bring their relationship together, and not consummate in a sexual way, but you want to see them come together and overcome these obstacles. And that's the thing that makes this movie so strong. And yet this has amazing practical effects. It has creepy, horrific moments. It's got some comedy in it. It's got everything. It's the whole package. And at the end of the movie, you think that was a great love story.
Yeah.
Like legit. I think this is one that really spans you can take a person who doesn't like horror, you can sit them down, and they might sit there and look at you a couple times during the movie, but I think they're going to get into it.
Yeah, just popped in my head for some reason when you but Near Dark, one of my favorite vampire movies ever. But Near Dark is basically again as a vampire movies usually are, it's a romance movie. This guy, he's got
and more than some of the others, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because the whole point of it is so that they could be together, and then it's like a tragedy, but romantic at the same time. I guess it kind of leads to the fact that sometimes you have to sacrifice for things you love. But that's a good film for that one, and I love that movie anyway. That's just a great film anyway.
Oh, that's a fantastic film.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk horror.
The
horror
Undead
rom-com.
Wookiee podcast with Hugh. Go ahead.
Let's talk about horror rom-com. What about Shaun of the Dead?
Hey,
there you go.
Absolutely.
That's a fun. Yeah, Shaun of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead is
Shaun of the Dead.
Story. It really is.
It is. You're trying to figure out, is the love story he and his buddy or his girl? It's always hard.
I gotta get out of this room with him.
Or is it about two guys and their love for the pub? It's hard to know.
Well, it's
sometimes.
a little bit of all of that, but basically, in Shaun of the Dead, his girlfriend has broken up with him, and he's trying to win her back, and it just happens to fall during a zombie apocalypse.
It's a growing up movie. Yeah.
What's that one where the
Coming of age.
What's the one?
It is.
What's the one? The British one where the guy he's broken up with a girl and they want to make him feel better, so they go to this town and all the women are zombies.
Isn't that Doghouse?
Is that what? Yeah, I've seen
Doghouse?
I vaguely remember seeing.
Yeah, Doghouse. Yeah, all the women in town. There's no men left in town. They go out to go drinking and have a piss up, and all these women just start attacking them, and it becomes a survival film.
It's a little less romantic comedy than Bill's remembering. But this is the breakup movie. This is where you're after the breakup of Valentine's Day and you're still in a mood. This is the one to watch, maybe.
That's hilarious.
But you got lots of those movies that spin off of that, like the quest, like Let's Get Back to the Girl. We talked about Love and Monsters. Cloverfield kind of sets that up.
Cloverfield, that's another good one.
The gist of that film where he's trying to get across town and it's driven by that. I love that movie, by the way. It's a good movie.
Was funny. I went and saw that movie in the theater, and I am not a found footage guy. I just don't care for those kind of films. About 10 or 15 minutes into that movie, I'm like, this is going to be a piece of crap. And I almost got up and left. I am so glad I stayed to watch that entire movie because it was so good. So good.
Yeah, it was a great one. Almost gave me a headache a little bit, but it was a good one.
It was a nice take on the giant monster, which is one of my favorite subgenres, and I think they kind of nailed it there. I guess to get a little trippy, we want to talk about trippy love stories as we a little bit. I mean, you got Mandy's a love story in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Mandy,
That was a cool
Mandy with yeah, that's a very cool movie, and one of my all-time favorites. I guess he's really done a couple of these different kinds of movies. David Lynch with Mulholland Drive.
Oh,
you guys have seen Mulholland Drive. And that movie, and the love story there that's kind of developing, it's kind of hard to track because you're trying to figure out where it's going and who's who and things like that. But in that one, the love story to heart of it between these two women, and it's got some really kind of steamy and sensual scenes that really work, and they build the connection between these two characters. But it's also a wild, trippy ride with a lot of stuff going on. But it does capture that dichotomy that Ryan, that both you and JT been talking about all night, where we talk about that dichotomy and that thin line sometimes between the love and the terror, or the love and the hate, the way that the brightest moment and the most wonderful moment in your life can suddenly turn into the dark, horrible moment. And that really plays out in that film, where this character is trying to piece together who they are and what has happened in their life, and how have we gotten here, and not quite knowing where they are. And it's a disorientation that comes with when you have great love and then when you lose great love. I think that's one of my favorite horror movies, if you want to consider it a horror movie. Right. I do. But yeah, Mulholland Drive, I think, is excellent.
Well, the other one that plays off those themes that Nathan, you and I had chatted about before was Don't Look Now.
Oh,
and
yeah, with
Donald Sutherland. Don't Look Now about it works on. There are a couple very sensual scenes in that, but it's not. You're not going to get really sexually excited about it. It's more frenetic.
Yeah,
but
it is really weird seeing Donald Sutherland naked.
Yeah, but it's a parent's love and desire for their kid that died tragically that drives that film, and it's a gut punch. It's a heck of a film.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting you mention that, because the nature of that love scene you're talking about, the way it was filmed and the way it's presented like, you guys are going to giggle, but it's presented very raw. It's presented very emotional and intimate, and to the degree that a lot of people, the talk at the time was, oh, that was not simulated.
Yeah, he's not.
And people are, and Donald Sutherland's like, come on, give me a break. It was.
Yeah, well,
what's that?
Don't repeat. You do not want to repeat that.
No, never mind.
Just remember, cut at 1:55, 30.
But honestly, no, that was the thing for a long time. People were like, oh, that wasn't. We were on set. That wasn't simulated. And Donald Sutherland's like, no, come on. But it lasts a lot longer than 50 seconds. But but this entire movie, it is based around love, all kinds of different love, and in that moment, which happens after they've lost the child, it's like you can see them trying to come together and fix their marriage, and he gets fixated on throughout the film. I mean, that movie goes some weird places. There's a lot of stuff going on in that movie, but it is definitely a movie that does have love at its center. I think it's a great movie.
It's a good movie. I mean, you can call it a drama, you call it a horror, you can call it a mystery.
And have you both seen it, JT and Ryan?
I have. Yeah, I've watched that movie. It's a great film.
I've seen bits and pieces.
It has one of the. It's got one of the wildest endings I've ever seen on a movie that just comes out of nowhere.
And it's almost got giallo elements to it as well. Like it's.
I would say,
it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and it's like you said. There's just
there's so many out
when you really look into it. Like the whole point of most scary movies, horror movies that you would say, is based in the whole love situation. And I mean, if you look at, talking about like Valentine's Day and things like that,
Yeah, we didn't even bring up.
I was gonna say
My Bloody Valentine.
My Bloody Valentine. That's a.
I was about to. I was like, we can't. We should. Maybe it's a good place to wrap it all up.
There you go. Yeah.
My Bloody Valentine.
My Bloody Valentine.
We've gone twice as long as you guys normally go. So
yeah. Oh yeah. And I tell you what, if you guys don't tell us when to shut up and we're done, we'll just keep talking. So.
Oh no. Well, that's my thing too. I'm looking at. I'm like, no.
But yeah, anytime you guys
if I want this night to have any sort of romantic conclusion, I need to get off soon.
Yeah.
I was going to say that I wanted to end.
No pun
I wanted
intended.
to end on one that nobody else will consider romantic, but it's based in love, and that's Death Wish.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
Charles Bronson.
Because he's avenging the murder of his wife, and that's why he goes to the lengths that he does.
Well, I mean,
Now
we
we
talked
are
Mandy,
talking
so
the
yeah,
old
that
school Charles
works.
Bronson, right?
yes, yeah. We're not talking.
No,
we're
we
not
have
talking
to.
Bruce
We can't
Willis.
not talking the Bruce Pat cashing the paycheck Willis movie now.
But Death Wish, really, he's motivated. I mean, have you seen part 3 where he goes into that neighborhood in Los Angeles? or
Yes.
whatever?
Oh yeah.
And that's the difference between he and the Bruce Willis one. He's motivated.
Yeah, motivation.
But that is, I mean, the whole crux of the movie is love for his wife, his dead wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one to end on, you know.
Absolutely.
That's a good one. And guys, just since we're coming up on the end of it here, that's what a big motivator in scary movies is love, you know, because think about it. Like we said, it could be a movie like My Boyfriend's Back. He's come back trying to be with his girl. Pet, like we talked about, that's a little bit what people will do for obsession, the love they have for something.
Well, I just thought about Friday the 13th is the mom's love for his son.
There you go.
No,
Every
Friday
horror
the
movie,
13th,
really, you know,
he killed all those counselors because he loves that camp so much.
That's right.
He loves seeing drunk, horny teenagers. That's
Yes.
what he loves.
I love seeing drunk, horny teenagers.
Well, that's all the
And that's
slashers.
why they keep making those movies.
All right, 1 hour and 50.
And this is the Phantom Galaxy signing off.
Yeah, just cut off the last 10 minutes of this episode.
We will make this episode end like a found footage episode. We're just, oh God, what was that? And everything starts
This episode
crashing.
ended an hour and a half ago. He just hasn't told us.
We'll just have somebody saying, we'll have one of our wives saying, I found this and I really thought it should go up, so here it is unedited.
Oh, but yeah, we really, really appreciate
Note to
you guys.
self, we have to record a found footage episode where we all die at the end. That would be great.
Since I know we're never going to talk to you guys again, we really appreciate you having us on the show. And
Oh, no. You know what? This has been a great time. I want to say to the audience here, because I'm sure has enjoyed it too, bottom line, there's a ton of great movies out
there
there.
is.
We're going to have this one up well before Valentine's Day. We'll make sure that the list of the movies is in the show notes because we go down a lot of rabbit holes here, but we mention a lot of great stuff. So I want to thank both Ryan and JT for coming on. Thank you guys so much. Give you another opportunity to let everybody know where they can find you. And I'd absolutely love to come on and talk some cryptids. We'll have to work that out for sure. And we'd love to have you guys back on sometime because we love horror movies. You love horror movies, and this was a ton of fun.
Yeah, and we love all you guys, man. It just, our love for horror is just huge, and we're just going to keep talking about it.
Yep. You guys can find us on Facebook. We're easy to find. We're everywhere, guys. Facebook, YouTube. Anywhere you can find a podcast, just type in the Horror Chronicles podcast, and you'll find us on there.
You go to Google and just type in the Horror Chronicles podcast, and we'll pop up everywhere.
Facebook is a great way to get a hold of us.
That's what I did, and that's
Google's
what happened.
pretty damn smart.
And what's funny is when I found you guys, it took me the longest time to realize you were audio because I only ever watched you on video.
Yeah.
So I've been watching
On YouTube, yeah.
Yeah.
on YouTube, and they do a brilliant job. They have a really good setup with their microphones, and they got
I love your
they
background
have the
design.
background
Your
design,
logo's
and at the
awesome.
same time, every once in a while, when I was on, Gerald would be shaking his hand up and down. I'm like, "What the fuck is going on underneath his desk?" And he was, you were getting your cigar. You were cutting your cigar. Or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
Is that what we call it in Canada?
I shake
That's
my
what they call it
lighter
in
a lot.
Canada.
It looks like I'm...
Yeah, that's what you're. Yeah. He's shaking his cigar.
Yeah.
So yeah, guys,
Oh, cutting a cigar.
that's where you're
I'm
gonna.
not shaking Ryan, let me tell you.
Yeah, we're 6 feet away. He'd only need 3.
This is social distance.
But anyways, guys, yeah, you guys can find us anywhere like that. We had a blast. We love talking about this stuff. Sorry for if you're not used to hearing as much profanity as we put out, but
Man, and we were pretty subdued tonight.
You were.
They're not here. I know. They got us riled up. Is what
Well,
happened. They don't hear any profanity. They hear smooching.
I was gonna say-
or whatever
yeah.
decide to put in.
See, I'm
You're
used
gonna-
to it with
you're gonna
Land of the
cover that with a
Creeps.
fart
So,
sound.
Yeah, perfect.
I should find the sounds of someone getting chopped
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
just chainsaw.
Every time he curses,
But yeah, thank you guys so much for having us on. And as always, open invitation. We will actually get a hold of you, Nathan, and hopefully get you on for some cryptid talk.
Yeah.
Or anything really. Heck.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
And, of course, Bill, we always
Yeah.
talking
You're
to Bill.
always welcome, man.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you want to set up a 4-way or a 3-way or
Yeah, I'm always
way
down.
you
Hey,
want.
I'm always down.
This is not that kind of show.
See what happens?
This worked out so Oh, but no.
Nathan, do you have a
so yeah, and
Nathan, do you have a webcam?
I do.
Okay,
Yep,
cool.
I can.
We can
join
set
in.
up some Zoom meetings.
I'll even shave my eyebrows for not off, but down. Because right now it's looking kind of.
Yeah.
It's Vincent Price right now. So
Yeah, my
so
wife had
I'll
to
have
trim
work on
mine the
that.
other night. She said they're about to grow into your hair.
Mine looks like flagella, like it'll just reach out and grab something, like if a fly landed on my face, it would just reach down.
And here is your chance to pump Manscaped.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, there you go,
Tried to
there
do
you
that.
go.
I tried to do that earlier with why it sounds like it does, but we can't.
Yeah.
but yeah, man.
All I heard Bill say is, "This is your chance to pump it."
That's usually what happens after we end the podcast.
Once I hit the stop button, it's on.
Love is all around, ladies and
guys.
gentlemen.
See?
And
We
that is the
apologize.
Phantom
Very
Galaxy
romantic
podcast.
episode.
We apologize.
That's the Phantom Galaxy podcast signing off. Have a good night, everyone.
All right, horror fam. That was our Valentine's Day special. We hope you guys enjoyed it. We know Reese sure did.
Yeah, and we want to thank Nathan and Bill from the Phantom Galaxy podcast for joining us tonight.
That's right, guys. But more importantly, as always, until next time, keep it creepy.
These measures